Hello and welcome to unMadeGaming, guys. It is Wednesday. This is the first Wednesday stream we've ever had in the history of ever. And we're here today with Johnny, aka VideoStoreCowboy. He's going to be running some Blades in the Dark, a game called 6 and 20. The uniqueness about this game is that this game is run across two different streams on two different channels between myself and another guy named Not So Speedruns. Mods, if I get a shout out to Not So Speedruns. It is a tandem unique world of Duskfall where we are running two separate crews simultaneously, and we will be fucking with each other back and forth. So I will be playing Nixerius Destorosi. He is a import-export specialist from the Dagger Isles, where he was marooned and shipwrecked and made his way to a family friend in Duskfall. He is a spider. He is a trafficker of knowledge and whispers. And with me today, we'll jump right over to the man, the myth, the legend, the kiwi fruit himself, Crit Gaming. Who are you? What are you doing here? And why should anybody care?
So, I am Slade from Crit Gaming, and I will be playing Reymond Bowerstone, the Slide, who is also the Noble, and we can all agree, the best Slide in this group. And yes, he is looking out for himself to get all the luxuries he can, and it is going to be one hell of a ride.
Sweet deal. Joining us as a last-minute addition, Xmas Ginger Ninja. Who are you? What are you doing here? And why should anybody care?
So I'm going to be playing Ruby Rod today, but everyone calls me OC. You guys may have seen me last game when we did a one-shot of this. She developed her vast knowledge in the intricacies of the city. Her Ladies of the Night collect information for her, and that is how she's grown her business, dwelling in the city her whole life.
Sweet.
That's all you get.
And last but definitely not least, the intimidation factor for me as an actual voice actress. I just pretend to be a voice actress. Lisa Lee, who are you?
Oh.
What are you doing here? And why should anybody care?
Hello, I am Violette Vale, and I am one of the original families of Duskfall. I'm a whisper from a long line of whispers, so we are a little enigmatic and really creepy. We talk to ghosts and spirits, which also deals in family secrets that we can sell. So it's always good to be friends with a whisper.
That's true. Did we name our crew, actually? Is that something we did, or did we just fail to do it because we're terrible?
I think we failed to do it.
We have failed to do it.
Okay, so we have a crew, guys. We are a
No man's crew.
No man's crew. That's not the name of it. We are a crew of shadows, and we steal and trade in information and secrets.
Enjoy
So-
yours today.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
let's do that.
Do that.
It's a bit long, but
Yep.
it's good.
Yep, that's it. We are shadows, and we steal and trade in information and secrets. That's the whole name of the crew. It's one.
Somebody get the
paragraph.
letters
It's a
for that
long
so we
name.
can
It's a long
just
name.
have an acronym.
Yeah. So, Johnny, tell us about Duskfall and how bad you want us to destroy your plans.
So first off, I have no plans.
Okay, good.
As I said off stream,
It's a great start.
I have great story hooks. I have plots and plans that are kind of, large scale and ephemeral and just sort of things that you can hook into, or that, may not actually happen at all. And that's the beauty of the system, right? Is that you guys are just as much in control of the story as I am. So I will present you with a starting situation. I won't even provide it. Mike, you provided it off screen, and we'll talk about that and talk about the setup of the crew and everything else that will lead into whatever the score is for tonight. But so Duskfall itself
Enjoy
is
yours
kind of an
today.
interesting place. I'll read you the description that I wrote for this whole thing that Mike had me write up, just as to kind of set the tone for the story that we're about to tell. In a city of trapped in perpetual night, crime is commonplace and conspiracy is a close ally. Common thieves work alongside corrupt politicians to enact plots for profit and revenge. There is no line between what is acceptable and what makes you a monster. The only guiding principle is greed, and the only rule is don't trust anyone. The dream is to last long enough to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Welcome to Duskfall. Now, with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about the game itself so that we can kind of establish the situation that we're getting into. This game is really, and it illustrates this in the book, or it says this over and over in the book. This game is about conversation. It's a collaborative narrative that we are going to share together. I will present a situation, or in this particular case, Mike has presented a situation that makes a lot of sense as the starting point. It actually connects Orange Crush, who was a character in the one-shot, directly into the group that we have here. And from there, we will build the story and the narrative around that. In short, there's 3 different phases of the game that we'll talk about, and it's very different than your typical D&D kind of a thing. There is the free play portion of the game where questions are asked and answered, a target is talked about, and eventually a score is chosen and the plan is put into place, and you guys all go. From there, we'll get into the actual score, or the meat and potatoes of the what the adventure is, where you guys are actually making a lot of action rolls and getting involved and doing things that are directly to take down that score. And then once you guys complete that, we'll bring it back down to a circumstance called downtime, where you can heal up, you can do things for longer term projects and that kind of a thing. I'm not going to try to explain all of the details of all the rules and all the aspects. We'll get to that as we get there. But for right now, where we're starting, we're gonna jump right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is, tell me a little bit more about the crew. Let's talk about the crew from a how did you guys get together kind of perspective.
Okay. So I think Nyx he's the biggest outsider of the group. He's not from Duskfall. He's never been to Duskfall until recently. He lived in the Dagger Isles with his family, doing jobs, we'll call them. And his family's vessel was shipwrecked, and he landed in, I think it's Dustport, in Aruvian. And he made his way to a family friend in Duskfall. So he's relatively new to the city, and he's only here because he knows that the North Hook Company has an estate here, and he blames the North Hook Company for the death of his family. And he knows that the Vales, a family friend, lives here, also has an estate. So he is here specifically for those 2 objectives. And he has thrown himself at the mercy of one Violette Vale, the sole survivor in her family, and said, "Can you help me avenge the death of my family?"
Okay, that's a great way to segue into who Violette Vale is and what her situation is as we start this crew, at the beginning of this game. So why don't you talk a little bit more about Violette and the circumstances of her family and essentially the estate that you now call your hideout or home.
Hideout? I have no idea what you mean. Violet is from a long line of whispers. The name Vale is one of the original families in Duskwall. And I'll say it both ways, I am sure. My apologies in advance. So the original families lived in an area called Six Towers that is now abandoned, falling apart, and there's a very high concentration of spiritual magic in that area. Her family's estate there is not quite habitable anymore, but it's filled with her family's spirits. So she also needs to keep them contained and happy, and she still does love their family, so she loves to visit them. She also will do, sometimes she will do whisper work in the home because she knows she's protected it and kept it safe from outsiders and from spirits inside, and her work inside, because it's kind of not quite livable. It's this big sprawling estate. She now has a home in an area called Night Market, where she also loves to indulge in her downtime, and it's on the water, so she is near her old home. It's more manageable, and it's a lot more presentable for any clients who, from city folk to nobles to other families to unsavory clients that might want to come and discreetly use her services. and she knows, and she's friends with Nyx, and Nyx's family is friends with the Vale family because he was a trader, and as far as I know, and my family's business on the father's side was antiques, which was a nice dovetail because antiques sometimes came with a couple guests that weren't around anymore. So it's always nice to get rid of the spiritual guests of some armoire before you sell it to a city noble or a city official.
Okay, I got a quick question for you. In all of that, talking about the estates and the spirits that spend time there and how you tend and care for them. How do you go about doing that? Do you have any idea what it is that you do to keep the peace, the calm there for them?
Besides visiting them and saying hello, I think also, and you guys can help me because I'm still not up on how all of this works, but it seems that if she's going to do spirit work, which can be extremely volatile or extremely powerful, she would need to, I would protect the house, first of all. I would kind of call up some power and protect the house from the work I'm going to do inside, but that's also going to protect that space from anyone outside. Anyone unwelcome that wants to come in and mess with House Vale is going to get a few spiritual slide bites, I think, as it were. So I think that it's protected and balanced. She has to balance the magic, I think, too. That's volatile stuff, so she has to have it contained or balanced, so that some of that can't get out, especially when she's working. And it's going to protect anybody who thinks they're going to get a cheap thrill. And I dare you to go in, I dare you. Or nefariously have some kind of ill intent to go in and mess with the spirits or the house or the antiques that are there.
So I think mechanically there are two items that come right to mind, Johnny. That there is a Demon Bane charm and is it a Demon Bane and a Spirit Bane charm?
Spirit Bane, I believe it is. Yeah, but either way, I mean, we can call it whatever we want, right?
I think in the book that's what they're called. And what they do is basically you wear the charm and you help repel demons or spirits from you. But I assume that could be applied to a house if you put them like, kind of like
mezuzahs.
Yeah, exactly, like a mezuzah or like the Chinese spirit tagging.
Right.
The same kind of principle.
I like that better. Yeah.
Actually, so this is actually a great opportunity to talk about another aspect of this whole collaborative affair that is this storytelling. Violet asking, or Lisa asking for help with Violet's story is an incredibly, it's a perfect opportunity for you to be able to include, and that's what Mike is doing now by suggesting the Demon's Bane, and I think that's perfect. So why don't you tell me what that means on the estate? How is that applied to the estate?
I would definitely have little Spirit Bane charms either carved into the edifice, probably carved into the floor.
Okay.
Discreetly and indiscreetly. I think that some of that would be I'm Newton, stay out, beware of dog, kind of on the outside. Okay. But on the inside, it would also be some of that would be secret. I think that if someone really wants to do ill intent, I think that charm might know that. You tell me if here's my idea, and you tell me if it works. Some of those charms might know that if it's ill intent and there's harm to be done, I think that would trigger a literal Spirit Bane, and they'd get a thanks, I needed that, either minorly or majorly, depending on their degree of breaking into the house or violating the house or defacing the house or trying to even steal the charm.
So because the Vale family is an ancient family, they go their lineage or your heritage dates back prior to the Cataclysm, which is the And for those in the for you guys that haven't really kind of read into this, and those folks in the audience, the Cataclysm was this event where the world changed from this beautiful kind of good versus evil kind of high fantasy kind of a setting to perpetual darkness. And there are different things, there are different aspects of the world that happened when the Cataclysm happened. So in this particular case, since your family is so it's been around forever, and probably at some point there is some experience with the ancient mystical arts prior to the Cataclysm, that's some side effect or that's some aspect that a prior ancestor was able to apply before your time, and it maybe it's lost to you, or maybe it's something that you can rediscover at some point. But for as of right now, it's almost as mystical to you that this actually works, that this or and that's just the conversation. If there's some other aspect that you think is important, or if anybody else thinks is important, we can kind of jump back in. We can revisit this. We can rework the the world as it it fits better into it. So for each of you guys, that's an important part to kind of think about the entire time. Is nothing is ever completely set in stone. We can always evolve.
Yeah,
so
and I think you're right. I think those would be. I think I didn't make those. Those are all. The house was probably built with them, maybe. And it's across the street from that park that's got this super concentration of spiritual activity as well. They probably even built it as a conduit, if that was their family lineage and family line. And I lost my sister to a ritual gone awry, and the level of magic ripped her apart and consumed her. And I saw it happen. So I'm very careful to keep that balanced, or do whatever I know that I can do to keep that stuff operational for work, but not overtake me or overtake a client.
Okay. Well, that's a perfect opportunity for us to kind of segue into another aspect of Violet, and that's the work that she's done, and we'll bridge that with the connection to your work with Reymond, and then talk about his character as well. So why don't the two of you talk about the relationship that the two of you have from your past experience?
I guess it'd be a very not much of a relationship. It's very business, I come to you for your services, but at the end of the day, I need this to be completed. I need help with it. But, depending on how that all went down is basically where they would move on from that. So I'm going to call it was a success. I mean, you talk with the spirits and whatnot. You found out the information and the conspiracy that happened, and was able to bring, justice, some would call it. I got my sweet, sweet revenge. And that sweet, sweet loot. And after that, I mean, definitely he'd trust her after that. He's given him a great service and whatnot. She helped him with a very personal family matter. So he'd be able to go to her, and you'd trust her enough to come with certain matters.
Okay. So why don't you talk a little bit more about who Reymond is, in the context of the job that she had brought, you had included her in, and then I guess more of your a little bit about your character and your history. Not the details are important, but it's all entirely up to you what you share at this point.
Well, I don't have the Silmarillion as a backstory. So
well, you are a hobbit though, right?
Ah, dick.
It's all love, Slade. It's all love.
So Reymond was a
broker.
You're first on the list. You're first on the hit list.
So who is the Bower Bomb?
Oh, you immediately regret the nickname.
Yeah, that's what the headlines say. Who is the mysterious Bower Bomb?
Bower Bomb. So Reymond was he was a bit of a sheltered child. He was basically raised in the noble household where everything was just given to him. One of those children, I want it now, and it was just given to him. And that's the way he just grew up. everything handed out to him. But when, the disappearances and, the murders happened, and suddenly he started seeing his wealth depleting, and family was on edge a little bit because they didn't have as much as they once had. They started really getting to him, which made him go out and investigate, which made him go and find Violette to gain her services. So although he loved the fact that, there was a bit of justice done for his family, he's really concerned with his money at the end of the day and the luxuries in life he can get, material, just all the pleasures he can get. That's what he aims for.
So is he actively still, or since his family is now, or since his parents are gone, or you're actively involved in the day-to-day of your family's business, correct?
I'd say so, yeah. I mean, he won the top position for the top dollar.
Well, sure, absolutely. But, how do you balance that with the man that is known as Bowerbaum?
So that...
He is the one who bombs.
Yeah. He's still trying to find his voice as well, under the mask.
Fair enough.
What is your business?
You know what? I'm going to say his business would be antiques and finding, certain things that would be high class and luxury. So I don't know what would you call it?
Estate antiques.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I'm trying to think of from where I'm from what we call it. I think estate antiques seems pretty.
So high-end Shire pieces.
Yeah.
I hope there's no rings involved or pipes. Okay, so
yeah.
We're so bad. We're so bad. We're starting off. We're horrible people.
That's great.
Hey, that was the whole game, wasn't it? Wasn't it like the discussion, we have a conversation, everything goes awry, flipping the table.
I flipped many tables today, and that's because of Mike. I just want you guys
Slade's
to know.
triggered by hobbits. Needs a cooldown period.
All right,
He's going to bring in an NPC. Oh, my God.
Oh, not a hobbit.
No. No.
It's my assistant, yeah. My assistant can be.
All right, so how is this? So the three of you are, loosely connected, and Orange Crush is from a prior time. She was in the character herself was in the one shot. So
Cool.
How do we connect Orange Crush to the current situation? And I believe, Mike, you had an idea about how this works as a relationship between Orange Crush and Nyx. And we'll use that to bring in Orange Crush as and let her talk a little bit about that. Once you guys kind of figure that out, and then we'll start with that starting situation based on that.
So I'm disappointed that you said you are loosely related, and Orange Crush is the loosest. Would have been the best answer, the best way you could have had it. But you skipped right over it. You skipped right over. You set yourself up, and then you missed the T entirely.
Sorry, I don't do guys who wear more makeup than me.
It's fair.
Wow!
It's hard being this pretty all the time.
Well, actually, we should probably also say that
waitresses.
Listen
there's
to
a
me,
reason that
Spice.
Mike is wearing the makeup.
Yeah.
Mike, would you like to tell us why you're wearing the makeup?
Yeah, because I showed a picture of what my character looks like, and Johnny refused to call him by his name and said he would only ever call him Guyliner unless I wore eyeliner, in which case he would respect my life choices. So I wore eyeliner, and he was shocked and impressed.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yep.
I said, "Oh, don't worry, baby boy.
Yeah.
I got you."
I was put on the spot.
Threaten him with a good
literally.
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could have warned me. I got the shock of my life.
Yeah. Guys, I'm also the front man for a pop punk band. It's coming back in 2018. That's
It's
not.
called Emo Spice.
It's called Emo Spice and the Nasties. Yeah, that's what it's called. Nailed it. But yes, I believe Miss Orange Crush, Miss Ruby Rod, was seeking some way to sell information, and that's how she stumbled across Nyx, a somewhat known information broker, and he introduced her to the only whisper he knows, Violet. So what that information was, I think Orange Crush can tell us more details about.
It was mostly just historical information on spells and other, magical items that are, I guess, not hidden around the city, but like artifact type things. Things that you wouldn't look twice at. You would, I guess you would have to be someone who talks to spirits to be able to use it or understand it. So not knowing what to do with the book, and having as many connections as I do between all of the ladies of the night, we somehow got, a mutual contact. Mike and I were speaking, and then he said, obviously I know someone. So.
I know a guy.
I know a guy who knows.
I know a guy.
So, do you remember what the book was from the one shot, or do you remember what the item was from the one shot, or what the significance of the item was at all? Or do you want to describe it, as something essentially new?
Something essentially new. I don't think we ever actually discussed what was in it because no one read it or opened it, really. There were just magical insignias on them. And it was magically protected.
Okay. All right. So, with all of that set up, character-wise, I would say that we've done a great introduction, and we will now kind of move into what is referred to as the free play portion of it. So, I think there's an opportunity here to either do some character interactions if you guys want to, have a conversation. There's an opportunity for you to start, basically just jump right into the action and kind of, do some rolls based on the item, and we can talk about what the item is, and whether there is significance that Violet can figure out for you, or if there's something else that she needs to actually work with, or this is really an opportunity to kind of really determine where this takes you from, hey, we've got this item, to whatever the score is going to be, or whatever the challenge is going to be for this particular session.
So since we already hit one of our micro goals, I'm going to take it right to Segway Town. That's where I'm going to use my free action.
Yo, wow!
And I'm going to inform everybody, things changed for Blades. The rules for donations are slightly different than they are typically in Dungeons & Dragons. If you guys do 620, I think, no, sorry, if you guys do !Blades in the chat, you guys will be taken to a link that links all of the new donations specific to Blades. But if you look down the bottom left, right, and center of your screen, you'll see our followers, subscribers, and retweet goals. Every time we hit those goals, we would normally give everyone an advantage. Today, and every Wednesday for the next 10 weeks, we'll be giving everyone a chance of luck. So everyone on screen, both GM and PC alike, will be given, will gain a position. And Johnny, what does that mean?
So the basic mechanic when rolling dice in Blades is very simply, it's you roll a handful of d6s, and in this particular case, we won't be rolling, we'll be trusting RNG and the masters of Roll20 to determine that. But basically, when you roll that, there are two things that can that help determine the outcome of that roll. When you roll that pool, the first is position, and position basically gives you an idea of the gravity of the situation you're in. So, if you are in, say, a brothel, and you are negotiating for a service, and you've got a lot of coin and you have a good reputation there, you would be in a controlled position. If your reputation was solid but you had a lot of coin, it would be a little bit risky. If you had neither the coin nor the reputation, it would be desperate, because you are desperately trying to get this service. The result, or the effect... I'm sorry, what was that, Bear Slade?
Literally desperate.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that, buddy. So
I know all of them too already. Nope.
So the effect, on the other hand, would be a set of circumstances that how the results come out. So in this particular case, again, there are three states. There are limited, normal, and great. So in a limited state, if you were able to succeed or fail. You're depending upon, failing is a big part of this game, but it's always about failing forward. There's always some complication, even when you succeed, unless you crit, and unless you succeed with a 6 or you crit. When you crit or you succeed, you basically just kind of move forward without there being necessarily a consequence or a side effect. But everything else, there's always some form of a side effect, and it's really about failing forward. But so the effect really kind of determines the gravity of the result. And so maybe it's, you got 5 minutes for that service, with a limited. Maybe you got a half hour with normal, and then maybe you, with a great success, you got all night. So using those as the example, that's really how you can make that change when you do a change of luck. Essentially, is you change your position. So if I say, or if we as a group say, well, it's kind of risky or it's kind of desperate, you could change your position from risky or desperate up one to either, controlled, in the case of a risky situation, or in the case of a desperate situation, you change it to risky from desperate. So that gives you an improvement. And then for me, it would be vice versa. It would go down the tree, I guess, or the path. And the same goes for limited to great. Now, I could explain all of this to you, and it gets, it can go in one ear and out the other, and it makes a lot more sense when we actually roll. So just as an FYI, that's what it all means, but we'll get to it when we get to it. And when you roll, you'll really begin to appreciate and understand what's going on.
So that means every time we hit one of those goals down the bottom there, we'll be rewarded with everyone getting +1 position on their rolls, including the Dungeon Master. So he can either use that himself or cause some negative position to one of us, however he deems fit. And as I said, if you guys want to check out that donation link, feel free to check that out and donate to the channel. Everything goes right there on Streamlabs. So you said we have free actions and downtime. Is that what's happening right now?
So this isn't necessarily downtime. This is free actions, right? So downtime is different in that there are very particular activities that you can only take, and there are very specific mechanics that are related to downtime. Right now, this is pretty much free action, so you can do just about or almost anything. I mean, it's all within, it's all within reason. It's all within what whether everybody in the group, it's a consensus kind of a thing, and so we'll just kind of roll with that. So with that basically you built that relationship with, or you've had that connection come up with between Orange Crush and Nyx. The item has been brought. What do you guys want to do?
So are we playing the scene like right when she brings the artifact to Violet?
I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really whatever the group wants to do. So
yeah. So I think so you tell me, OC, have you met Nyx before, or were you just introduced through your underlings?
I was introduced. Hold on one second.
I like the use of the word underlings.
This is gonna get confusing. Nyrix,
Just
my
Nyx.
friend.
Nyx. Oh, your friend Nyrix.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The courtesan.
I call her Nye, so if that helps.
She's a courtesan.
Yes, she is. And she will be also coming with me because I don't know him and I don't trust him because I kind of trust you because I trust my people to, vet people before they bring them to me. But I also don't like to travel alone, so we will both be there with you.
Okay.
I gotta interject real quick. I'm really happy to hear that she is coming with you because she was a huge part of the one shot and a part of the entertaining aspects of the one shot. She did almost as much as any other party member in the game, and it was hilarious.
She fanned me. She fed me grapes.
That's
I
true.
mean,
She
Now
seduced a
that's
couple of
courtesan.
people.
she seduced like 2 people. I'm sitting in the corner like, well, now what do we do?
Yeah. Now I gotta wait till she's done. She's on the clock now.
Yeah,
Jesus.
she's not coming alone. I gotta go with her.
Well, I'd hope she wasn't coming alone.
Oh, gee.
So, so you probably would have
Well,
met
I'm thinking-
Nyx. You probably would have met Nyx through a chain of various means. So your Ladies of the Night would have put you in contact with any number of the displaced homeless that are scattered around Duskfall, and one of them has led you to Nyx.
Okay.
And when you meet Nyx, he is nothing like what you expected him to be. A sneaky, shady guy who deals in secrets and knowledge. He is upstanding. He has like a leather trench coat. He has like a leather like shirt, like a jerkin that's unbuttoned. You know, some chest hair coming out there. Some gray bush coming out. He has this amazing eyeliner on. He has a small chin beard. He's got a little goatee there that kind of ends in a point.
So you're the guy from Grandma's Boy,
No, he doesn't have any facial hair. Not that guy at all.
who just thinks that no one can see him and he talks like a robot.
It's Hook. It's Hook from Once Upon a
It's
Time.
Hook from Once Upon a Time. Yeah.
Okay.
He looks like Killian Jones from Once Upon a Time, and that's probably what you say when you see him.
We're gonna need a reset. No, I'm just kidding.
And we need to pause. We need a minute. We need a minute break. And he sees you walking up. What do you look like as you approach this guy who's leaning on a building, 1 foot up against the building, sort of casually watching as everyone moves by?
By the way, no one calls her by her name. No one knows her real name. She's
Okay.
OC. But she has long red hair. She's wearing, like a proper, very fine dress. Probably rugged boots for having to walk out there. And you knowing, not your character knowing, that she has weapons on her person.
Are they hidden so he wouldn't be able to see them?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
What is Nyx wearing?
The same.
Okay.
We both
A fine
dress. We
dress.
dress
Oh.
above your station because people don't generally know that you're a lady unless unless you choose to tell them.
Okay, and can I ask where is this meeting actually happening?
Under a bridge.
Yeah, at a nondescript location at a building. I
Oh,
assume in 6 Towers. Right, that's what it's called, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll set the setting being the bridge. I love the idea of the bridge because there's actually a couple of locations where bridges and they're multi-level kind of streets and that kind of a thing that are going on. But we'll set this as it is an incredibly dark night because there's lots of rain, and the ground is wet. The cobblestones are slick from the grime and the dirt of the day, relatively speaking, along with all of the water that is just kind of cascading down from the sky. And so what makes it even darker than what you typically would know as the dark is the fact that because of the rain is so heavy, it's making light, the various street lamp lights that are kind of like scattered all across the city, lining all the city streets. The light doesn't shine as far, and so it gives a better opportunity for having a meeting in a dark place, say under a bridge where there might be some ambient light typically.
I feel like it'd be a good time to mention that Duskfall is also bathed in eternal night. I believe the sun rises for like 1 hour a day, or the sun shines for like 1 hour a day.
So at dawn, so from the book, and then the description that I was basically going to go with is at dawn and dusk, you see a faint glimmer of light that is kind of shining at the edge, on the horizon, and it doesn't last but more than a few minutes, and it's just kind of this faint glow that it shifts from complete black to maybe a little bit of purple and orange, and then it disappears again. And the same thing happens as the sun sets on the other side of the world, on the other side of the horizon or whatever.
Sure.
So,
so Nyx would see you guys. He's leaning up on the side of the bridge, 1 boot up there. And you can see down by his right hand is a glass bottle of some substance that he swigs from, looks over you and says, "Hello, loves. What you doing in these parts?"
Well, I was told I would be speaking with a respectable man. Would that be you?
Oh, respectable men. No, you can't find no respectable men in these parts, but you can find me, and what can I do for you and your companion?
I was told that you would be meeting with us about the book.
Oh, yes.
We did not bring it with us.
Yes, you have a book. This is a magical book, I was told.
I'm assuming, side story, I'm assuming that I was going to be paid for it. or given knowledge in return.
Well, you make a lot of assumptions, my dear friend. You and your friend. Well, I can... My associate can pay you, I assume. I will
My
not be
time
giving
is
you
not
anything.
free.
Nor is mine. But if you'd like any kind of coin, you can come with me. And he, like, swigs his bottle and then offers it to you.
She's going to decline and pull out her own, just to show him and put it back.
And then he walks off and he says, well, this way, lads.
She's going to take a look at her companion and nod back to go get the book. Just in case it was, a trap.
It was a trap.
And where is Nick's going to go back and get the book from?
Probably like 20, 30 feet back behind the other side of the building. Just tucked behind, like a dumpster or something.
Okay. And where is Nick's going to lead OC and Nyx? Or Nyx?
He leads them the longest way possible back to Violette Vale's house, weaving through alleyways and side streets, and he just continues to talk nonstop the entire time about mostly things that don't matter. Like he'll be walking at one point and say, "Did you know that the cobblestones here, they were created in 19 whatever?" And he just goes on about things that don't matter, and then every once in a while he'll slip in a question like, "I see interesting work for a lady of the night to acquire some kind of book like this. That's strange."
Yes, it's also none of your business.
Business is my business. But anyway, this building here was... And he'll just go on, and he'll just keep slipping probing questions in as he takes her on like a 45-minute walk that should have been maybe 10 minutes to the Vale estate.
So I have a quick question about Nyx and the story that he's telling, or the information that he's telling. Is he telling her the truth, or is he making up things as he's going along? Is this kind of like a fanciful tale?
Oh yeah,
or
he's absolutely. But it sounds great. Like he's saying these lies with the utmost confidence.
She knows every corner of the street, so she's just ignoring everything he's saying.
Yep, he's saying it with the utmost confidence, whether it's true or not.
Okay.
Word of our
All right, so
claims,
did we just talk about the physical aspects of the Vale estate yet?
No, a little bit, just a little bit.
Right, just the charms on the outer wall, and not much
It's
else.
enormous.
Right.
It's definitely in disrepair.
Okay.
Not quite
Alright, so-
habitable, but not falling down. Like there's still a roof. There's still. It's just.
Okay.
It's too big. It's like an old Kennedy old money mansion that's now the whole area is in disrepair, and it's impressive. It's imposing, but it's not exactly habitable. Like the power in the whole area, I believe, is off in Six Towers, right? Unless someone's cobbled stuff together, or just that block. Like families don't really live there anymore. It's not really. Is that right? It sounds like people just don't live there anymore at all. Like all that old money, all that big money has left. And if there's people there living there that might be squatting, I don't know.
Well, that's really kind of up for us to determine. Are you talking specifically about the estate, or are you talking about the district that is Six Towers?
It seemed like the district that is Six Towers is all in disrepair and all is kind of abandoned. No.
Well, I mean, we can figure that out, and we can actually talk about that right now. I will say that let's not go into too much and overdo what that neighborhood is. Let's kind of find it out as we explore it.
Sure.
But let's stay focused specifically on the Vale estate and the surrounding area right around it. And so it sounds like it's in, not only is it in disrepair, but it's also incredibly dark. Like there are no street lamps around it and that kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. I kind of like Only Lovers Left Alive. She's kind of kept a little bit of power. There might be a little generator. It's probably not on any kind of a city grid. It's
Sure.
probably just a little bit of power to keep what she's got stable, or it's a little cobbled together to work, but not really to not look like, hey, come on in.
Sure. So just this is actually a great opportunity to kind of talk a little bit more about the world building going on here. the way that electricity works and the way that the electrical light works here is it's based on this element, or this refined element called electroplasm, or maybe it's not necessarily refined. I need to go back and do a little bit more reading, but for all intents and purposes right now, electroplasm is the fuel source like coal throughout everything. One of the ways to acquire that is through Leviathan hunting, and it's essentially quote unquote demon blood. The other way to kind of refine it and process it involves the spirit world. So would you having it there make sense, having a generator versus like having torches or candles or any type of anything that would not necessarily be related to that particular
Wow, it almost sounds like if demon blood runs on spiritual energy, I would be GE. It would be like the brightest light in the town. Or it's just it's like I've got my own solar because I've got these spirits.
So there's actually something that I read that actually makes a lot of sense, and let me see if I can find it real quick, and I'll describe it to you guys, and let's see if this makes a lot more sense.
But I'm totally cool with candles too, because that's rocking and sexy
So I think the easiest way to think about it is like the Leviathan blood, the demon's blood. Think of it like whale oil.
Yes.
So it works like that. So even if you have the spiritual energy inside the veil estate, it consumes the energy. So you would be like, oh, here you go, ghosts, power this light with your whole essence. So they would be drained. They would
drain it. That makes sense. Okay, got it.
So and again, I'm
cool.
Just asking this particular question so that we can kind of clarify whether she would participate in that particular quote unquote endeavor or not. So the endeavor of exploiting that, because there is actually, and I can't seem to find it right now, but there are alternatives. Like there's this, I can't remember the name of it, but there is this spectral energy that can be absorbed by plants and by certain types of animals, and it gives off an ambient light as well. And so that might be something where that ambient light that's absorbed by spectral energy is actually what you have, and what you would essentially have these plants that are kind of lined around your house that
like bioluminescent spiritual energy conservatory plants.
Very, very much bioluminescent, except that the light would be a little dimmer than fire, and it would be a lot spookier in my head.
So, Johnny, just so you know, John Harper, creator of Blaze in the Dark, in chat says it's called radiant energy.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Yeah, yes, radiant energy is what I'm talking about.
Good
That's
stuff.
Cool.
It's always nice when you have the creator of the game and
to help you with minute details.
Oh, absolutely. So
also,
radiant energy is what I'm talking about.
We can make this. I would like to make this as intimidating and weird as possible, just for the aesthetic factor of showing my work.
So from what I read today about radiant energy, and this is the really interesting part.
Lightning bugs. It's just lightning bugs.
So the neat thing about it is, in this particular case, it's not something everybody is going to do or have. It's not something that everybody is going to cultivate, right? It's something that the noble houses would have. It would be something more of the well-to-do and the well-off. But in somebody in your case who has a family history that is very much closely tied to the spectral energy, and the spectral, all the ghosts and everything else, it makes a lot of sense to have this, be a part of the estate and be a part of its spookiness and its mystique, and maybe that's also what's helping power the banes that are lining all around. Yes. So we can always figure out all the details, but yeah, I mean love
that.
Okay, so describe how you would arrange these radiant, energy plants that are kind of lining, the aspects of the estate. Are they all inside? Are there some in the garden giving off their kind of spooky glow?
I think there's definitely a garden. I think that there are indoor and outdoor plants. I think there would be hardier kind of tall, willowy kind of Alice on acid kind of plants outside that can exist in the weather, And then inside, I think it would be sort of fitting with the time and fitting with the genre. It would be like hothouse orchids and hothouse kind of delicate plants that were a little twisted and a little off, giving off this really odd glow. But the house is imposing, and the ceilings are tall, so it's not, the light doesn't fill up the room. The light kind of these plants would kind of glimmer from cold spot to cold spot, you know. It's not really giving the whole room a glow. So there's still an element of dark corners and darkened airy ceilings and darkened tattered kind of drapes. And I think it would be I think I'd add some candles as well and candelabras, because Lord knows they're going to be in the estate. They're going to be all over the place. But I think that would be really, really cool to be, for the plants to look a little foreboding.
Okay.
I like the idea that you've taken like glass apothecary vials and you've stuffed the plants inside of them and inverted them in candelabras to look like actual light bulbs, but it's just glowing moss inside of a light bulb. That'd be super rad.
Yes,
Really cool.
yes. Totally, yeah. Like bell jars on tables with just some little kind of twisted thing, and yeah, like sitting on top of an old piano that's not quite in tune anymore.
But it's still well played, right?
It's still well played.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. You got to keep the piano there. Aunt Mabel would have a fit.
Of course. And everyone knows that Mabel was a fabled pianist.
Aunt Mabel's fables are infamous.
Yeah.
And Mabel's going in the book. All right, so
She's a
next,
diminutive
describe.
pianist.
Good night, folks.
You got to say twice.
Next, describe the approach to the estate and what you are seeing, and how you're kind of taking it in, and we'll get an impression from Orange Crush or OC and Nyrix as well, just to kind of get a feel, and then we'll ask Lisa, or we'll ask Violet where she is in the estate.
So a perceptive OC or a perceptive Nyrix would know that we've passed this estate 3 times now. And every time they've passed it, he's told a different story about the place. Not like a different story about the Vale itself, but like a different aspect of the Vale. This stone wall. And then other such stories. The dead here roam freely. Whether they're true stories or not, that's beside the point. But a perceptive person would know that we passed it 3 times before he actually led her in to the house. After conversing with her repeatedly and, like I said, sliding in those probing questions. And he just nonchalantly walks in the door without knocking, without, prostrating himself. He just walks in and he says, "Excuse me, Lady Vale. It appears as though the woman who stole the book is here."
OC, before walking in, would have thanked him for bringing her. Said that she loved the stories, that they were great, because she's first and foremost a people person, very good at like understanding what makes people tick, and having especially men, having been around them her whole life and dealing with them. She would have thanked him and then probably pushed past him and walked in.
Yeah, Nix goes and immediately sits on like a crusty couch that he sits in, like a plume of dust comes out, puts his leather-booted feet up and says, "It appears as though my little spiders tell me that Ruby here stole the book herself."
OC?
Sure. Stole the book herself.
She'll go over to shake her hand.
Okay, and this is probably a good time for Violet to describe how she's dressed and what she looks like as well.
It's not a working day, so I'm just dressed in a bodice, cutaway skirt, pants, slim pants, jacket. She's got long white hair and violet eyes. She's thin, she's willowy, she's kind of angular. She is very pale. And 5'7", 5'8". she's just kind of standing by a foyer table. It's just enough glow to, again, another one of those beautiful plants, like beautiful twisted orchids. Give you just enough glow to see her face. As OC reaches out to handshake, I'm going to look her in the eyes just for a minute, kind of lock eyes with her, just to get an assessment of her intent. And then a really soft little bell chimes somewhere, and then I'll offer my hand and give her a shake. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm eager to see this book of yours.
I appreciate the offer. Your home is beautiful. And she'll like nudge to her friend, and her friend will come over and lay the book on the table for her.
Thank you so. Wine, tea, cider?
None for me, thanks.
You dear? To your friend?
She doesn't really talk much. She'll just shake her head.
Well done, well done. Let's take a look, shall we? I'm going to lead them down a pretty dark hallway into a side parlor filled with taxidermy, books, dusty table, little pianoforte, tables, and just enough light on these little tables to sort of see that what's in the room. And the table will have some crystals and candles on it. Table, please.
She'll nod and put the book on the table and just kind of look around at the room at the different trinkets.
All right. Let's see what we've got. And I will try to roll. Do I roll to determine if I can investigate this book?
Well, so this is a great opportunity to start talking about roles.
How do we do it?
And actions and the elements that make sense to get you to that mechanic. So what is it that you're trying to do?
I would like to investigate, sense if this book has magical properties, has spiritual properties, if they're malevolent or benign or good. Like, or if there are traps on this book. They're magical traps, banes, like bane charms on it. Are there? I don't want to be gotten by what I get.
Okay, sure. So you're trying to basically ascertain the spiritual, spectral, metaphysical, magical status of the book. How would you go about doing that? Like, what would be the experience of doing that for you? Would it be a matter of, attuning and going to the ghost field? Would it be physical examination and research and reference? I mean, what would be the physical activity or the physical action or the engagement of it that you're And this is a situation where if you're unsure, or you've got some concept, you can throw it out to the table too, and the table can help you as well, kind of figure out what the right answer is, or what And again, you're Violet. You're the ultimate individual who is going to decide what all of that means. But I think this is an opportunity again for if you're at a loss or you're looking for some additional input, the table's there waiting for you.
I asked her to put it on the table because on this table are more carved bane charms. So if this is a baddie, if this book is designed to be malevolent, it's going to contain it. Like, I can open the book and it's not going to, some demon isn't going to jump out at me. I think that I would absolutely attune and go part way into spirit plane world.
Okay.
So that I can see with that sight, that ghost sight, what might be ghost written on the cover of that book, what runes, what ghost runes or spirit bindings might be on the cover of that book. And since there are spirits in the house, it could be also like Mabel's going, it's all right, you know, or it's like, I don't know. I know I've seen that before 200 years ago. That's not good, you know. I'm sure I have help from relatives who might be like literally looking over my shoulder that they can't see. But I would definitely want to go into the ghost field a little bit, just enough to be able to see what properties are contained, at least on the cover first. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So to me, what that sounds like is that you're going to attune to the ghost field and enter the ghost field, or, you know, at least communicate with the ghost field and, you know, kind of find yourself in the situation where you're communicating with the other spirits that are going on. With that in mind, does that sound right to everybody else at the table? Does that, I mean, because I'm gonna throw this back out to you guys to help make sure that it's, you know, something where it narratively makes sense as well as, you know, mechanically makes kind of a sense, kind of a thing. So does everybody good with that?
Yeah, so we're basically putting the book down on a demon spirit bane table and attuning to the ghost field around this book. Is that what I'm picking up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you look like you're deep in concentration right now? Like if I spoke to you in the game, would it break your concentration while you're doing this?
I think I'm good at it enough now that it wouldn't break my concentration. I think a younger adept maybe.
Okay.
But I think I could probably answer your questions as I'm doing. I probably hear you faintly, right? I wouldn't hear you like we're speaking now. I would kind of hear you. It would sound like you're in another room, but I could hear you.
OC would definitely be inquisitive to know, and at least to warn her that this was warded before, and that we had a friend who could spirit walk and could see that there were traps around it, which may not be related to the book. It could have just been someone's handiwork, but it is something to be careful of.
Good to know. Good to know. Right then. And now do I need to roll some kind of investigation check?
Johnny, you're muted. Still muted. Still muted. Johnny, you're still muted. Super muted. So what you would roll, what I'm sure he's saying right now, is on your character sheet, if you go to the attune button and click on attune, it will automatically roll it for you.
Where is the attune? What?
Okay.
So
okay.
what happens
So
is... Okay, I'm sorry.
no, please go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
No, it's okay. No, this is the whole part about the game, guys. Okay.
So on your character sheet, if you actually go to the spot that says character sheet,
Yes.
if you pop it out on the right, it'll say attune under resolve with the dots next to it.
On the right-hand side. Oh, wait,
Yep.
over there.
So you click on the word attune itself, and then when it pops up in the other one, it's risky, controlled, or desperate, and that's based on the
Oh, this is so cool. Oh my God, John, this is so cool.
So this is actually a great opportunity to really kind of dig into the details of.
I love this interface. This is rocking. Sorry. All right.
No, it's all good.
Guys,
I
this is
love
actually
that you're
the
so
first time that
enthusiastic.
Lisa's used the internet ever, so it's great. She's only ever been to
Oh,
Twitter.
don't be a dick.
This is my first time using the
No, I know.
interwebs.
It's pretty awesome.
No, it is. I am geeking out because this interface is built so well. I had no idea. This is so cool. This is really cool. Every character sheet ever for any RPG should be like this.
So I'm taking a step back from the whole, the game table thing real quick. The Blades in the Dark integration on Roll20 is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it. I love the backgrounds when the dice roll. I love, the character sheet. I love the integration of a crew sheet. I love the integration of the faction stuff. And I was coming from something else where I thought that was the most amazing thing. No, Blades in the Dark on Roll20 is amazing. So good job, guys. All right, so...
Yeah. Okay, so I'm rolling this for controlled?
So let's talk about that. I think this is actually a controlled situation because the way you described it is you're in an environment that you have complete control over. You put it on a table where there is a circumstance that you are preventing negative consequences from happening initially. You're taking all the precautions that are necessary.
Also, she was just warned that it might be warded, so she's not going to be surprised if it is.
Well, and the fact that she warned that OC warned Violet also gives me a bit of pause, because actually something I wanted to talk about before we started the roll process. Do you guys think that counts as an assist?
I think so.
Yeah.
Sharing my knowledge willingly with someone that I don't know and I don't really have any interest in.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not, her dying or living has no bearing on my life. No offense. Love you.
Wow.
I mostly told you because you're a
It's
girl
true.
and I deal with women and I trust women and it's kind of like my thing because I'm, so. it's
Sure,
kinda like
okay.
One chick to another, hope your face doesn't get blown off.
Okay.
It's hard to market blown off face. Trust me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're calling this. So it's you're doing the attune roll. You're going to mark the controlled as the state. And let's talk about effect. For the most part, this seems to me, again, given you're going in almost completely blind, other than what OC has told you.
Right.
I'm not sure if the effect is going to be limited or normal. I'm not sure that there's an argument for great, but I'm willing to hear,
It can be limited. I've never seen it before. I'm cool with anything. I'm cool.
So
with that.
I think the book itself has the potential to be great, but the expected outcome is limited. Like she's going in blind. She has no idea what to expect. She could open it and find out that, oh shit, this is a big deal, but she has no idea. Like, she's going in completely blind. So I think limited.
Could be a cookbook.
Yeah,
You don't know.
It could be just an arcane warded cookbook.
Yeah, but it was also, I told her that it was under heavy guard and that it had
Yeah.
all these enchantments and it was well protected and it was like a struggle to get it. And it's like, it's important to me because otherwise
That's
I
true.
wasted my time
That's true.
and
Well,
my
it's
life.
a wet herring. All right.
That's true. So with that information, would you think it is a mundane or a just above mundane object, or would you think this is an object of great power?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's going to OC.
I have no idea. I would not know. I mean, she said that story to me.
Mhm.
I don't know if I can trust her. I don't know if that's true, and I don't know why they were guarding it. You know what I mean? I have no idea.
So I would argue for normal then.
If that's a cookbook, that's
Yeah.
the best damn cookbook in the world.
Yeah. That's
And it
true.
was-
For the same reasons you said, she has no idea who you are, OC.
Yeah.
She doesn't really care. You brought her a book and said this was trapped. So
I'm also poking things in her room while her eyes are closed, like not knowing what any of this stuff is. So
that's true.
I don't think I'm some powerful,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would argue for normal then.
So I've never done this before. So I'm gonna hit controlled and hit submit, right?
Yep, and it's going to go to the next one, which is going to be effect. And then you're going to choose normal.
Then is standard, limited, or great?
Standard.
Sorry, standard.
Standard. Submit. And I have no bonus dice.
You have one bonus.
You
die.
get, yeah, because of the assist that OC gave you, you get one.
I hit submit. I added
And-
one. Hit submit.
Okay, what
Where
do we
do I-
see? Well, what do we see in the thing? Hold on just a second. I'm
3,
actually
1,
having
So a
trouble.
3, 1, and a 4. So a 4.
I don't
is the
remember how that
highest.
works. Can you? I'm sorry.
Oh, absolutely. I will totally explain how that works. Okay, so
Where are you seeing
when
that?
you, so you're seeing that all the way on your on the right hand side
Of the roll
in the
window.
chat window that's on the game table there. Do you see that, Lisa?
Do you see your character name on your right hand side?
There
of
it
the
is.
screen?
I see it. I see it. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent.
3, 1, 4.
So the way that the dice rolls work is you build your pool, and then depending upon how the dice end up rolling out, so there are at least a 50% chance of success if you're rolling 1d6. So 1 through 3 is a failure. 4 and 5 is a success, but it's either a limited success or there's some consequence that comes up as a part of that success. And then a 6 is a success without complications. When you're rolling multiple dice, you roll that pool of dice. So in this particular case, you rolled 3 dice, and you take the highest value that came out. So you got a 4 as your highest value. That is a success. And it's a success with it's either a limited success or it's a complication, and that is determined in a lot of cases by the position that it was in, in this particular case, controlled, and the effect, which is going to be standard. or normal, as I was calling it, but standard is the correct
Cool.
term. So with all of that in mind, let's see. I'm going to throw it out to the table because I've got an idea, but I also would like to hear what you guys think in respect to where we could potentially go with this. What does Violet find when she phases into the ghost field, and then we'll narratively describe all of this as it's happening, right? So, does anybody have anything that they wanna throw out on the table in respect to, I mean, literally on the table, specifically, for what she might find here, or what information she might glean?
So this would be determined by you, Johnny, since this house is heavily haunted at almost all times by a myriad of ghosts.
Sure.
If she attunes to the ghost world and puts on her Neo Matrix goggles and can see all the ghost field, if this room is full of ghosts, depending on the contents of this book, the ghosts could either be very interested in hovering towards it or be terrified and moving away from it.
Well, so yeah, and that's one element that could come into play. But from Violet's description about their approach which she would be going about through this, right? She is putting herself in a controlled situation where she is not only attuning to the ghost field and kind of entering and seeing the Matrix as it really is, but also she is engaging those spirits that are around her ancestors, any other spirits that might have popped around for that level of conversation, for that information. So really, whatever the contents is what's going to determine that, because they are actively interested, because this is a normal behavior essentially for her. So they are at least Aunt Mabel, and potentially and we should probably at some point delve into, either on camera or off camera, we should delve into more of the family, history of the Vale family and who's kind of lying around. But given that we've been introduced to Aunt Mabel, we'll use Aunt Mabel as the spirit that you will interact with, or the ghost that you'll interact with. And then we can actually talk a little bit about what the effect of you doing this is having on Aunt Mabel and those other spirits, because there's a couple of different states that a ghost can be in. But the state that this actually makes most sense is that she is what's called reconciled, which means that she doesn't hunger necessarily for the living energy from other people, and she doesn't go out and seek to do malevolent harm. She is actually a spirit who is quote unquote stable, mentally and spiritually, essentially. So,
That's cool.
Yeah, but going back to the table, is there anything that anybody, any idea anybody has that kind of makes sense here?
As to what the book is?
Yeah, as to what the contents, or what it is that Violet discovers when she phases into the ghost field.
So,
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go
I was going to say something pertaining to supernatural hotspots within the region. It doesn't have to directly be this city, but it could be areas, all over this, like this province or region, if you will. And maybe like items that have been found or lost, or more like lore, but things that she could use if we were to find these items.
So almost like a
witch's cookbook,
like a spectral treasure map.
Yeah.
Well, I was almost going to say, so when you said that, and I like the idea of that, because it actually plays into a couple of other story elements that I've got going on in the background. It's almost like a ledger for dealing in antiquities, but it's so old, and it's written in such a way that it's heavily protected. Like there's a lot of spiritual energy that's been infused, and maybe it's even pre-cataclysmic in its origin and nature, so that it's something that it would contain information about things that you may only be able to find, say, what is now called the Ghostlands, or in other parts of the larger continent area. So I love that idea.
So
go ahead.
Question for you.
Sure.
How much of the heist is common knowledge, or I'm sorry, is not common knowledge, but is knowledge to Nyx?
Oh, so how much about from the one shot?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question. I almost kind of want to make you roll that,
Sure.
Yeah.
but I'm not quite sure. So I don't want to context shift because I want to get to the description in the role about what Violet sees and everything else. But I really want to do this. Now, give me just so let's do. Go ahead and make a roll of some kind.
I would say
have
consort
an
because
idea
I'd be
too.
talking to my little spiders. Because I wouldn't
Okay.
be getting the information myself. I'd be getting it through discussion with people.
Okay, but so
But where
this
would
is
they
almost,
get that information from?
Yeah.
Because none of us would tell people that we've got this awesome book. Just based on the characters that we played.
That's fair. That's fair.
I also wonder.
Also
if
because it
this-
would put us in danger.
Yeah. I mean, you did literally blow up a house. So
Exactly.
I mean, that would be kind
No.
of big news. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they would know the specific details then at that point.
So Blades actually has a mechanic that allows us
Okay.
to determine things that are not necessarily that are applicable to any particular given individual skill or action, and it's called the fortune roll. And so I'll throw this out on the table as well. And it's basically just like a D6 roll or a pool of roll essentially to kind of make a decision when the GM necessarily doesn't have anything. Or where he doesn't want to make the decision, or she doesn't want to make the decision on her own. She wants fate to kind of decide. One of the things that I just raised that as an opportunity to have that conversation, if we want to throw it to that. But I actually like the idea of Nyx actually having, it be that particular action. Like it be a consort action.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and start with that.
Okay. So
And then what are we calling it in respect to a position?
so let's see here. Let's do consort. It wouldn't be controlled. It would be. I don't think it would be risky. There's no real loss to me, but I think it would be desperate. There's not a lot. There's not a lot to pull from here. They kept their cards close to the chest on this one, so it'd be hard.
I don't think that's what desperate means. Is it in that sense?
Yeah, I don't think it's
Desperate is like for your life, like desperate, I thought.
right.
Okay.
Your life doesn't depend on it, you would just want to know, I feel like.
So I agree with that, and I'm not even sure risky applies. The only thing that comes to mind is, shit, I just lost it. The circumstances with which what's drawing me back about this going between controlled and risky is, and maybe Nyx, you can answer this. How did you know OC's real name? Like, was that something where you did your type of background check on her and you went as far back as kind of knowing that type of information?
Yeah. If someone reaches out through my network of people, then my network of people reaches back out. So someone in her courtesan group or
None of them know it. I've never used my name before.
You definitely used it to your
I
group
did
of
in
friends.
Titros. In Titros.
And to your group of friends in the heist, I believe. So someone knew it.
Okay.
So he reached back through that. Someone had to know someone who had to know someone, and they knew that a person who matched her vague enough description, and then he made the assumption that that was her name to see if it would garner a reaction. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I would say that given the circumstance of that being the case, I would say that this is a risky position.
Okay.
And the reason that I would say that it's a risky position is because for you to have that level of information in what you dug into and what you were researching, or when you did your background check, when she contacted you, and you talked to somebody else in the crew, and you can determine whoever it is that you talked into the crew that wasn't OC.
Sure.
That puts you in a situation where there was some element of ruining or tarnishing your reputation. So I'm going to call it risky.
Okay. Yeah, I would have talked to whoever the bruiser was. I think he was a cutter, and he was an alcoholic. The guy
Was
who
that
stood outside the door.
Skelm?
No,
was
Skelm was Greg, wasn't he?
Greg.
The other guy.
Oh, he was
okay.
the pimp.
Yeah, it would be whoever Fallen One played, who just stood outside the door because he was a heavy drinker. Yeah, he sauced him up in the bar, and or had one of his acquaintances sauce him up in the bar and leak some information. So yeah, we'll go with risky.
Okay.
The input value, let's see, for effect, I don't know. I don't know on that one. I would say standard just because I'm not sure it sways in either direction.
Okay. Sure.
So let's say standard. And because I'm a masochist, I'm going to go ahead and take a devil's bargain.
All right. But so let me ask you this question. Before you go into the whole devil's bargain thing, and I'll explain the devil's bargain in just a second, but I really want to understand the motivation behind that. Because you've already put yourself in a risky situation by beating this information out of somebody. What benefit, I mean, what is the greater benefit that you get from taking the devil's bargain in a situation where this is just essentially free? I mean, you're right now, you've got as much time as possible, quote unquote, to be able to explore this information.
So he has pockets of information. He has the fact that a book was stolen that was heavily guarded. He has that a crew of 4 stole it. He has that it was blown up. These are probably all fairly common things. He knows that this person who calls herself OC, whose name is Ruby, stole a book or has obtained a book, and one of the members of the crew gave that allegedly stole the book gave her name. He doesn't know that this is
my
the
birth
same
name is Ruby. My name that I used last time was a different name.
Okay, so then he would have that name.
I have a new alias now. You would not have Ruby. That's kind of what I was saying. And
I got you.
it's not because
So
once I blew up a
your-
building, I decided I should probably change my name.
I got you. So whatever the name you used when you blew up the building, that's what he would have called you. I misunderstood that. So yeah, he has pieces of information, but not the entire story. So he doesn't know that this is the same book. He just assumes that it is, but wants to verify if it is or not, because this is information that he can sell.
All you had to do was ask.
He doesn't look like the kind of guy that asks.
That's creepy. Never.
Just like a
Never mind.
man. Won't ask directions, won't ask.
Yep.
All right. Well, all right. If you really are interested in taking the devil's bargain, then sure. So let's explain what the devil's bargain is. Essentially, it is a mechanic that gives you the opportunity to gain an additional die. Then that's at its most basic. But the circumstances really kind of provide you with an opportunity to put yourself in not necessarily a negative position, but to add some very serious complications to it. So no matter what happens, whether he succeeds or fails, even if he gets a critical success, which means he rolls at least 2 6s, there is some complication that will be introduced, and it will be based on the situation, the position, and the effect. So he's accepting that, and then you're also, I think it requires you to take 1 or 2 stress, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember, but I'll
I'm trying to find it right now to get that information. But yeah, so go ahead and add that 1d and then roll it, because if you're really interested in doing it and you're doing it for that reason, then I'm perfectly fine with you taking the
Sure. So what is the devil's bargain? So we know beforehand. Like, I'm taking it regardless, but we are supposed to know what the outcome is, so I see how hard I get shafted.
So one of the things that happened during that, or the main element that happened during that the main event, excuse me, during that one shot was you guys were hired to go to a blue coat estate, and the blue coats are essentially the rank and file law enforcement, and they're entirely corrupt. They cause all kinds of trouble, but and they're essentially considered a gang or a faction in and of themselves. And we'll get into the faction system at some point, either towards the end of this particular session or in the next session. But you guys were hired to go to a blue coat, essentially district headquarters, and steal this particular book. So the devil's bargain is, And I'll open this up to the table if anybody else thinks that this is, an opportunity to, kind of alter, whatever. But from my head, what makes sense is that because Nyx is a pretty well-known spider, he's got a reputation. He's not, as an individual, his crew that he's putting together, or that you all are putting together, doesn't have a reputation in itself. But Nyx has a bit of a reputation. So the spiders have gotten to him before. And if you go with this, the devil's bargain will be related to them pressuring you for information, about who actually executed that particular heist.
So if I make this push, someone else is looking for the information and knows.
So the bluecoats are specifically looking for this information, and they're going to be coming and paying you a visit because you're such a well-known spider.
Okay.
You are such a well-known information broker. You are going to put not only yourself but OC and potentially everybody else in your crew at risk.
Done. 5.
I can't believe you're doing it, but wow. All right. So with that in mind, what do we think the outcome of that is? I mean, you're looking for more information about what was being presented.
Yeah.
When we had a conversation before about this off stream, we talked about the fact that it was directly related to the ectoplasm.
Yep.
And the building of hulks.
Yeah.
Now it's what's been put on the table is that it's a ledger of some kind for ancient items. What information, what context do you want to provide onto this?
So the context would be that the book that was allegedly stolen, that he thinks this book is the book about hulls.
Okay.
And so he walks into the room and sort of like puts his hand on the door frame and sees Violet sort of leaning over, doing her thing that he's, I'm sure, seen before, and says, "My dear, is it the one about hulls, or is this a different book?"
Patience.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, why do you want to know?
Well, it appears that there was a book that was about the ectoplasm and the reincarnation of hulls was recently stolen, and I was wondering if this was the one.
No. Not that I can see.
Interesting.
Why are you so curious?
About hulls, or about this book?
Specifically about this book.
Oh, I'm not curious about that book. That book seems of no consequence. I'm curious about a book about hulls.
And I just chuckle, and then they both hear a male chuckle from a shadowed corner of the room.
Very audible?
He's just chuckling under his breath.
Just the two of us? My friend and I?
Nyx and Nye and OC can hear this chuckle in a corner of the room. I said, well, it may be of no consequence to you. You can think that. It's charming. But this is a lovely, lovely thing. Where did you say you came by this?
I didn't.
No, you didn't. But would you tell me?
If he leaves, and she's going to look over at Nyx.
Yeah, Nyx steps back from the door. He's sort of like, he's leaning on the door frame, and he just sort of like peels backwards, and you hear footsteps down the hall.
I'll nudge over at Nye to like watch to make sure he's not standing right at the top of the stairs listening to us.
Okay, so move to the door and just
he
pay
is
attention.
absolutely standing like 3 feet from the door and looks at her, and then waves. And then waits.
And Nye's just gonna look back down at me until you move.
Yeah, he eventually will move.
Yeah.
If he doesn't hear talking, he'll eventually.
Okay, so I want to take a pause for a second and ask you a question. And this applies basically to Nyx, but this gives you an opportunity to kind of. So, because you guys have the crew and you guys are shadows, and your special ability is attunement to the ghost field, right? Is that the?
Yes, ghost echoes. We can see the ghost field in certain places.
So this is an opportunity for you to use that. I'm going to make that suggestion when she attunes to the ghost field and she goes in, that you would be able to watch it from a distance. Just pointing that out.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I ask a question too?
Sure.
So can the crew, when they do that, can they also interact? Can they just see, or can they see and speak?
I believe we can actually interact. I'll pull it up real quick. But
So Nyx may know anyway what just happened,
Well, so yeah.
or what it is. Because
would
Mabel will be like, oh, it's a thing, and it's a lovely, it's a book, it's a thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
but
Mabel's a busybody.
It's true.
You are
If you
absolutely
would
right.
use
You know
that.
what? If you want to play Mabel, I will give you the opportunity to do that, because I would love the idea that you are actually playing multiple, of your ancestors that are just kind of popping up and and
Oh,
doing
no.
that whole thing.
What have I done to myself? Oh my God.
You've committed yourself to playing multiple characters. I just want you to know that. Or maybe what Violet does, and this is another opportunity for you, is that Violet occasionally allows those that are reconciled in her family to take over her body, and yes, exactly. So but not to take away from the whisper, the being able to see into for the crew, being able to see in the ghost field, it's only a limited form. The things that they can do is incredibly limited. The whisper is the person who is able to just completely interact and do all of those things. So I don't want to take.
I think it's super useful for the crew, though. I really love that the crew can do it.
So it does.
Absolutely,
It
absolutely.
does specify that we gain the ability to see and interact with the ghostly structures, streets, and objects, and not the actual ghosts themselves. So it
Interesting.
specifically says structures, streets, and objects. So memories of buildings that used to exist, or street signs, street lights, things that are around.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Anything that was infused with spectral energy, but not the actual spirits themselves.
Right.
Okay, excellent.
So OC
Yeah.
will just tell her what happened and how she found it and the information that they were given.
Does she include the story about the Fantas?
No,
Okay.
she'll have to find out later.
Don't
Okay,
you want to?
fair-
You. She's
Okay.
going to say, Nyx can come listen, but he's not willing to share. I'm willing to share information freely if I get something in return. I don't want money. I don't want, I have that. It's information I seek. So, you don't have to tell me what's in the book, but anything that you think could help me based on my reputation, my business, my dealings, a partnership, if you will.
Absolutely. That sounds like an amazing accord, I think. But you may want to know what's in this book. This is pre-cataclysmic. This is worth a very pretty penny to anyone who can use it. Anyone, any whisper with the sight can read this ledger of it's a treasure map, basically. It's a ledger of magically protected magical items around Duskwall.
Is there a way for you to protect it here?
On that table, it is protected.
If someone were to come here, if someone were to say something to someone else about where this book might be, are you able to hide it and protect it?
It's what this house was built for. Absolutely.
Then I came to the right place. And she'll look over at Nye and tell him that, he can come back down.
So I want to take a step back for just a second, and I want to ask Violet a question. What? And this was, you've taken your action. You've explained what's going on in the book. Can you describe to me what it's like when you enter the ghost field? What is that experience like? And is it a conscious thing? Is it a subconscious thing? Do you lose complete control of your body? Or is it just you kind of phase and see the Matrix at the same time that you're kind of seeing reality, and you can see the spirits there in the ghost field at the same time? I mean, just kind of walk us through what that experience is like, because there's a visual element I think I'm missing in my head.
For something this basic, I think there's a gradient there of what kind of operation she's doing, what kind of occult spell or ritual that she's doing. There's a huge gradient of that. For something this basic, she's just taking a look. I think that part of my genetic or predisposition is to be able to, I've learned through focus and attuned it, but that attunement for me at this point in my career is just kind of like taking a deep breath and opening that oculus, that eye of attunement into that spirit world. And it is a dual phase kind of thing. I can see what's around me, but in a blue-white kind of hazy shadow, depending on my focus, how deep I go, I can see that spirit world and I can interact. All of the relatives in the house immediately kind of appear and become much brighter around me. I can see them much more clearly. They come more into focus. And the light from the plants gets much brighter. For me, the room is now pretty well lit in that dual phase thing. I can still see the shadows, but I know this spectral light now fills the room for me. And I kind of hear it as well. It's a little visual, it's a little audible, it's a little bit of a that mono speaker kind of. There's a little tinge of white noise, a little tinge of even it's like echoes of spirit still living in that plane, you know. So
and so when you're looking at this book, how deep do you go? Like, what is because you described it as a gradient, and it's something that there's a variable to the experience. How deep into the field do you go to do this examination? Because I think what I'm also trying to understand is, you know, is this still something where you're protecting yourself even though you've got all these protections and you've got these spirits that are around you?
I hadn't thought to actually protect myself because I'm in my room and in the house that's completely protected, and I'm just going to take a look. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 2. You know, where my sister, who was ripped apart by a ritual and spirit magic she could not control, that was a 15, because she just couldn't control the magic and the ritual she was attempting, because it was the magic and that feeling was so seductive. I am sure that the hairs, you know, I get goosebumps. The hair stands up on my arms. I'm sure, depending on how deep I go, my hair might even start to float. But you know, because I think that spirit plane is a little weightless, little something, little weird. Okay,
so as you and I'm doing this to add a little bit of context to the ledger, so that and whether you decide to share this or not with OC and then potentially Nyx, there is this element of, you see the ledger and you see all the details, right? You see the language that is written, and it is an ancient, or not an ancient, but it is definitely a pre-cataclysmic language, but it is infused with spectral energy, and there are, you know, essentially the organized notes, that is, you know, the entries on the ledger. And there appear, in a different context that are kind of faintly going there are additional notes, you know, in the margins, right? And in, you know, kind of off to the side, and just kind of, you know, about, maybe potentially about some of these entries. But there is additional context that has been added. And is it a different, if say the ledger notes are in, say, like a blue kind of a color spectrum, these other notes are in sort of like a purple kind of a spectrum in respect to color. So you see them, but you don't see them as clearly, because you get the sense that you would have to go deeper. And then there is also one page lined in the back that is in red. And this is an entire page filled, and it's not just runes, and it's not just, you know, words in a language. There are pictographs as well.
Ooh, that's fantastic. I also wonder, and we'll have to ask and put it up into the table, but or we ask later, but could this book have belonged once to the Bowerbaum family?
So that's a question. I actually,
Bowerstone is the cool guy.
So Reymond, how far does your
Could
family
that
go
be
back?
part of the murder? Could that be part of the reason?
Yeah, there could be. I mean, his family would.
Ooh.
I
Right,
want it
'cause
to
you were
be,
antique
it would
dealers.
be an established. Yeah,
Right.
it'd be an established family. So basically, you know, as I said, with the antiques, you know, it's like, you know, they sell that, but all the better stuff is kept in the locked vaults.
Did you say better or bitter stuff?
Oh, you know what I meant.
Guys, I just want everyone to know that that's the face that Johnny makes when he takes his plot and throws it out because the one you just made up was better. I've seen it a few times. That's what it looks like.
Well, no. So I'll that was an amazing piece of insight in connecting this to Reymond as a character, because what happens is I was struggling with, okay, how do we get Reymond in? How do we get Reymond in? How do we get Reymond in? And all of a sudden, you know, Violet says this, and you know, Lisa's asking this question, and I'm like, yeah, and you're absolutely right. Thanks for pointing that out, Mike. I really appreciate you.
Oh, there's a
buddy.
fourth character?
It was going to get to the point where I was just gonna be like, you know what? Time to kick down the fucking door.
He was actually just here for the looks. Like he didn't actually make a character. There's no backstory. He's just here to be the pretty one on stream.
I thought he was just hanging out until we played, you know,
I'm the mascot.
Player Unknown Battlegrounds.
He is the mascot. He's a little kiwi fruit.
The kiwi. Oh, that is
The
such a nickname that is sticking now.
Yeah.
It's like this last week. It's just like kiwi fruit.
It is.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna take a step back and let Lisa and Reymond and the rest of the table kind of figure this, you know, figure this out, because I think that that's a brilliant connection. Good job there. Absolutely wonderful.
I'm going to quietly. I don't know if I have to ask you. I don't have any telepathy, do I? I don't have any. Oh, you know what? I don't need it because he's there in the room and he can see it. I'm just going to go give a look over to that darkened corner where we heard the chuckle, and I'm going to say, "Go let him know." And you hear footfalls, and a tall, thin gentleman you haven't seen before quickly exits the room with heavy footfalls, but smoothly, quickly exits the room and leaves the house. And I'm going to go, and that message is going to go directly to Bowerbaum.
Oh, you know it.
Okay, and so what is the intent of that? Is that to bring him here? Is that for you to have a meeting? I mean, what does that initiate essentially to get involved with Mr. Bowerstone?
Mr. Biddlebauer, Mr. Bowerlock,
Butcher block.
Butcher block.
Mr. Booker Paper. I want him to know that the book that used to belong to his family and may have been killed because
Enjoy
of
your stay.
is in the parlor. Is now just sitting in the parlor. And
Okay.
what is going to be done with it and if he wants to do anything with it, it will be up to him. But he should come along and make a decision.
Oh yeah, hearing that information, he basically, you know, drop his soup and like run out the door.
His mushroom soup?
Oh no!
I thought you said drop his suit. I was like, okay.
No soup.
That kind of party.
He's in the news.
Seems like
It's going to be this way all the time.
OC's like, God damn it. No, no. Okay.
I'm getting paid for this too. Is
Just
Reymond Bowerstone in the Bowerstone estate, or is he in the Vale?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. He's in the Vale.
Okay.
Did a 2-for-1 special. He's saving money.
Okay, so for the audience, would anybody like to explain what the Veil is?
I believe we did we not?
Did we not? And does OC work through the veil, or is it a different house of leaping?
The Vale is
Well-
the name of the Vale estate, right? Is that
And
Oh no, I
different-
thought you were. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you were referring to
The nightclub.
the establishment.
Oh, right, that's
the
what it
Veil.
was. Right, you're right.
the
That was-
VEIL.
Yes, yes.
The Veil and the Veil, essentially. So
I know.
does
I'm
somebody
sorry.
wanna
I didn't realize.
No, it's all good. Would somebody like to explain what the Veil, the establishment, is?
Go ahead. Violette Vale. It's your establishment.
I own everything.
No, I believe this was something that you had talked about as a part of your backstory. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to talk about this location.
Part of everyone's backstory is they have a vice, and my vice is indulgence. So I often frequent the Vale, which is also in Night Market, not far from where I live, but it is a nightclub of all types of decadence, vice, ill repute, phantasmic indulgence.
Anything goes there.
Anything goes. It's not wild and woolly. I picture it to be someplace that is more lacage than Princess Puffer's opium den. I think it's a little classy. It's a little fun. It's a little bit for all levels of clientele can go there and feel safe, but feel indulged and feel have discreet meetings in various.
It's the swing club of drugs.
It totally is. Drugs and vice and food and tea and opium and women and men and toys and what have you.
Hats and chains and swinging hands. Who's your daddy? Yes, I am.
Okay. I am going to ask
you guys. That's a little too much information, Nix.
I am going to ask for a lot more information about this when you guys actually get there at some point. But so, Reymond, is that where you are right now, or are you at the Bowerstone estate?
I am there.
And so why don't we do, so you've sent a message off, Violet. Why don't we do a cut, and we're going to find Reymond at the Vale. What is Reymond doing at the Vale?
So he's going to be by himself, but he's going to be just looking into, you could say the accounts, if you will, of how his business is going. And as I said, he's with his soup. He's got his awesome brandy with him, and he's just minding his own business in this lovely establishment. Anyone that's coming towards him, he's just basically like, yeah, I've got money.
Wait, so are you implying that you actually own the Vale?
No, definitely not. But you know what? He's not sure. He's just going to be like paperwork. I do. This is a restaurant. I can do what I like.
He might be a shareholder or an investor or something in the Vale.
I mean that is a perfect hook into aspects of that particular place. But so
a patron.
He is definitely he's a rich dick visiting this place, right? So he's definitely okay. So Reymond, so you're consuming some fine food, which probably either is some combination of mushrooms and some sort of fish, or maybe goat, or a nice seasoned rat stew of some kind.
Sure, why not? It's a
I suggest that you guys go back at some point and read. There's a section in the world of Duskfall where it talks about all the details about the world. There is a very, very graphic description about the different classes and what they actually eat, and it gets quite disgusting. I just want you guys to share in my terrible nature.
It's a bowl of tadpoles' arseholes.
All right, so Reymond is basically sitting there going over his notes and just enjoying himself, whatever this bowl of whatever he's eating, essentially in the restaurant portion or the eatery portion of the Vale. And you see this individual, as Lisa or as Violet, sent off, as Lisa described, walk up to you and convey the message to you. How do you respond?
He's just like, I'm sorry, could you repeat that just one more time?
I said, Chimes is letting you know that the book is in the parlor.
Enjoy your stay.
The book is in the parlor right now.
I see. He's just going to put the glass down, grab a neck that's around us, and just throw it out.
Want to have a stroll?
You hitting on me? I'm just joking. Let's leave.
He
right then,
says to
and
Skrillex
Skrillex just gonna whip him in the back of the forehead as he leaves.
Okay.
Because he can.
Absolute panic.
All right, and so there'll be some sort of montage where they get into Reymond's carriage, I'm sure, because he's a rich dick. He'll rent a carriage, or he'll get a cabbie to take them all the way back.
The carriage is for me. That dick can walk. I will say,
That dick can fly, but that's all right. Probably.
Just looking at him from the carriage, just like.
Do you do the slow trot with the horses and just watch them out of the window? Go at the same pace. That'd be good shit.
Yes, that's perfect.
And we were worried that this was going to be all dark and sinister.
We'll come full circle.
Well, yeah,
Right.
I guarantee you we will.
Yeah, wait, just
Okay,
wait.
so we'll cut to Reymond arriving back at the Vale, or at the Vale estate. Rather, not the Vale. We're going to have to figure some way to differentiate the two. We'll call it the
Violet
estate and the
has
Vale.
The veil.
Right.
The Vale and the estate. So he arrives back at the estate. And are you eagerly waiting for him? Because the spirits would definitely make you aware of anything or anyone that's approaching your resident, or this location that you maintain, the residence.
Since we've already done business together, I think he sort of has an entry card. You know what I mean? Of the spiritual, like, oh, they see him, they know who you are, you're good to go.
Okay.
He doesn't
fair
have
enough.
to. He might even have to ring the bell. He can just come in. I'm sure that it's prickly feeling for anyone walking in those wards, but I'm sure he's fine to come in and come right in. He's been there before.
Okay. All right. So, Reymond, describe what you're wearing.
Okay, so Raymond's going to be wearing a leather long coat, but it's going to have like gold thread embedded in it, and he's going to have it all buttoned up, and he's basically got a mic going on as far as facial hair goes, and short black hair.
Does he have the guy liner too?
No, there's only enough one for one of us. A band can only have one front man, Johnny. Relax.
Yes. Basically all dark colours, other than the threading. So dark pants, dark, what you could call, I guess, just pirate type boots. So quite eccentric.
Pirates are in this year.
Oh yeah. So he's just going to open the door and just like, and he's just going to look around. And then he's going to look over it. Nix is still up, correct?
No, by the time you walked back or you rode your carriage back, Nix would have been back downstairs because they called for him.
Okay, so then he's just going to start undoing his jacket, and he's just put over his Lady Vale.
Hello, welcome. Come in, please come in. Ladies, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bowerbaum. Bowerbaum, the ladies.
He's going to walk down with his jacket, and he's going to be like, oh, a pleasure, and look to Nix.
And he puts his hand out like this.
He's going to put his jacket on the hand. Thank you. Take that upstairs.
Well
I
done,
believe
well
you.
done.
And the ladies will give him like a little nod and a curtsy.
My oh my. Vale, you didn't tell me you were in such fine company.
Well, I didn't know, but you do owe them a bit of appreciation. They've brought the book.
Oh, where did you come by this book?
We have our ways.
I'm sure you do. So that is undoubtedly my property.
If the lady of the house decides it is, then it is.
Interesting. I would very much like to know who came with my property first, but that is a rather fetching book, isn't it?
Well, I did explain a bit. It's not my decision. You found it. You brought it. It does belong to his family.
She will
That is
ask
the truth of it.
what, in the way of what reward will they have. She'll explain, I don't want money, I don't want, go through the whole thing again. And just explain that she would be more than willing to help acquire more of these books or more of these items in exchange for information as they go along.
Compensation,
Oh my,
basically.
information, you say. He's going to go along with it. So you want information. Not much of a material possession, girl, are you?
I am, but I have. Information I will always seek.
Well, this could get fun.
Yeah. Seems we have birds of a feather there. Alright then. I will acquire my book in exchange for maybe, I don't know, my services. I mean, my shops and antiques are certainly something you could rummage through if you want to find something.
I will keep that in mind. Thank you. She'll look over at Nye, and it came in a bag, so she'll give him the bag if he wants to cover it. And she'll explain, I will say, the way I came about this is not necessarily legal. So maybe, even though it's your property, maybe not show people.
Oh, don't worry. We know about discretion, don't we, Vale?
Can I ask a
It's
couple
one of my
questions
favorite
here?
words. Hi.
So it's interesting that OC only wants compensation in the form of information or other things. Is there a driving factor behind that other than just the fact that she can buy her own items or she can acquire things on her own?
I think it's more of a hobby, and it's more of she has friends all over the city, female, who get her information, but there's only so much you can get out of someone in that way. And having these connections and these establishments and, networking with these women, you make a lot of money doing that because wealthy men are willing to pay certain things for everything. So,
Right.
So money is of no consequence to her. So I guess it's more of a curiosity and
So it's
a way
almost-
to stay on top of
So it's
the
almost
food
like
chain.
a passion or like a side venture versus it being your primary means of, or your day-to-day means right now, essentially, of your life.
A little bit of both, because knowing people, knowing their secrets, knowing things like that, if you run into issues, it's nice to be able to cover yourself. Because
Right.
things
Yeah,
she
that
does
is-
aren't always legal.
So
That can give you power over.
I see Orange Crush
legal
as the
officials.
woman. From Sherlock, the woman. That's how I see Orange Crush. No? So the woman is in the newest Sherlock, she's a dominatrix who doesn't get paid in money, she gets paid in secrets, and that she will sleep with a politician and then take discreet photos of the things he likes to do, and then says, I'm unpunishable by anything that you want, or else I'm going to show you these photographs of you dressed up like a dog getting your ass spanked with a paddle. And they're like, okay, yeah, you have whatever you want, you crazy person.
Yeah, that was kind of my excuse as to how we got out of the house.
Yeah.
So if we were seen by someone, I could have been like, Nye, take care of it. And I'll go through our network, find someone and be like, okay, well, we have this on you because this person who, my friend, that type of thing.
So she's essentially so in the modern Sherlock, she's Irene Adler.
She's Irene Adler, the woman, yeah.
Okay, all right, that helps. That there's a lot of context associated with it. I love that.
That's delicious.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I think when he said Sherlock, I was like, oh yeah, the woman.
Yeah. That's what she calls herself. Like, her website is thewoman.com. She refers to herself as the
Well,
woman.
it's like you demand, but not sexist.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so
That's cool.
that's an awesome bit of backstory or a bit of context on OC. I love that. Brilliant insight, Mike. Reymond. So when you are making this, you're making this essentially this relationship. You're establishing this relationship with OC, and you're essentially offering essentially what is a handshake deal. When you imply or when you say offer your services, and you're implying or you're saying stuff about the property and the antiques and the vendors essentially that you have, are you being serious about that, or is this an implication of the other nefarious, more criminal activities that you are offering?
It would actually be a bit of both. So he is going to give her access to come and check out the shop other than his one room. But also because he has been dabbling a little bit here and there in his side ventures in, justice. He's willing to offer both services, but basically she's given him a service, and he is willing to help her out.
Okay. All right. I just wanted I wanted a little bit more context on both sides of that deal, because it helps me understand the framing that will play into as I bring things into the to the table as well, as story elements, that kind of a thing. So all right, so we're 2 hours into this, and you guys haven't even gotten to a score yet. And I think there's been a lot of great world building. Or a lot of great storytelling? Where's the angle moving forward, though? I mean, so
we definitely need a brandy, don't we? Shall we not celebrate with my new possession character?
Is the book still on the table, just hanging out?
Oh, please help yourself. Yes.
The book is just hanging on the table, hanging out.
But let me look a bit more. There's one page in the back that worries me, and I'd like to keep the house stress-free, if you will. So that red page. First, I'd like to look at the red page, and then I'd like to go, well, like, what's the first thing on the ledger that we might score? Does that make sense?
Sure. So, but and I may have missed something here. You're asking about the entries on the ledger, and you're not acknowledging the purple entries at all, or the purple notes. You're going directly to the red. Is that correct?
Yes. In my head, I thought the purple notes might be like picked it up or didn't get it because blah blah's in the way or whatever. The red, that sounds like a warning.
Okay,
and
so
I'd rather
So
I'd
yeah,
rather look at
there's
the red first. If there's bad news in the back, I'd rather know it first, and then we can read the purple.
Like reading
So-
the fine print first.
right. So there's a lot of context. You're absolutely right in respect to the context. The language that the ledger is written in, when you look at it in the ghost field, is not the same language as when you open up the door. I mean, open up the entries look normal. You have to actually enter the ghost field in order for the ledger to make sense. And those notes are exactly what you're talking about. But you are clearly completely clueless about the red, because it's not not only is it an ancient set of text in respect to runes, and there are pictographs as well, and the depictions are a little startling. You get frightened a little bit by what you're seeing there. But you again, from your knowledge, and I would be more than happy to have you roll this if you can think of a context with which it makes sense to roll this. But just right on the surface, you don't know what's going on here. So this is your opportunity to kind of either figure that out or turn that into the score, or you want to go after the first item, and the first item on the list in the ghost field, in respect to that context as well. So it's your choices, guys.
Would that be like an insight or a language intelligence roll?
Well, so it's so taking a step back from a situation,
It would be risky, whatever it would be.
Well, yeah. So they're those definitely. But so let's take a step back from the roll mechanic real quick and ask, and go back to the question. The question is, are you going after the information about the red page, or are you going after the first item on the list, essentially?
So what does the red page say? Is it in a language we can't understand, right? That's
It's
there
the warning.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be that's the answer. Is we're going about the information that's on the red page, because obviously the red page, the rest of the book is in plain text, right? Is in plain whatever.
Plain
English?
plain text, ghost text, and pictograms that are frightening to me.
No, the rest of the book is normal, right? Only the red page is all fucked
I'm
up.
confused now.
Only the red page is in a different language. The rest are just items and notes.
Is that right, Johnny?
Okay, so I'll go back and describe the book again,
Sure.
the ledger. So the ledger, when you open the ledger in reality, in normal space, when you're not looking at the matrix, it is a book that looks like a ledger, and it's got entries in it. But those entries are all mundane things, right?
12 bushels of wheat, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. They're very, very mundane items that are just kind of listed out. When Violet enters the ghost field, and she looks at through the ghost field, she sees the same basic, the same common language. And again, it's an older dialect from pre-Cataclysm, but it is an older dialect. It is it's essentially a series of items that she can read, which is all written in blue. And then there is essentially a purple context that's kind of written in the margins that are notes about the various aspects of these items, right? And so that's all legible to her and in the common language. The red page is a page in the back of the book, and it's written in a completely different dialect. It's got runes that are of a language that she doesn't necessarily understand, and there are pictographs that are a little frightening to her.
Did she tell us all of this? Okay.
Yeah, I'll relate this.
Okay.
Since everyone seems to be in an accord of we just want information, and I've already worked with 2 of these people before, and if there's danger in the book, I want to owe it to everybody to be like, this is what's up.
Can I want to ask a question real quick, because this goes back to the relationship, or this goes back to the connection that the book has to Reymond. Reymond, what is the context of this particular book to your family? Was it just an item that your family had in their antique dealings, or was there any more significance to that particular book?
I'd say it was a bit of both. So they do all their dealings, but as their business kept growing and growing, and they started finding more and more interesting items, then they started making different notes and different parts of it. So the normal stuff would still be calculated in it, but the other notes and the other things they discovered would be hidden away.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying then is it's a ledger from your family's business.
Yeah. So basically, from the very maybe from the very start point of when they started getting established. Like, this book is ancient, yeah.
Yeah. It's so the Cataclysm was about 1,000 years ago. Give or take. Well, yeah, about 1,000 years. Give or take a little bit of time. But this book, toward what is considered modern times, would definitely have be very because I'm going to move my camera because I'm running into the sun. Shut up, Mike, about the sun. Yeah, us living in California. So this book would essentially be one of the first ledgers that your family business that dates back pre-Cataclysm
Yep.
Would have kept. And so I like the idea that the ledger notes are maybe the legitimate part of the business that they were in at the time, but maybe the ghost field ledger entries and notes were the start of essentially the ledger for the antiquities part of the business.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I love that connection. Okay, so I'm sorry, jumping back to answer OC's question. She shares all that information with you guys. How do you want to proceed examining or doing more fact finding about the red page?
So Raymond's going to look at the ledger and he's just going to start reading. He's going, oh my, great grandfather. I had no idea. Let's have a look. He's just going to start going through the ledger and just flipping through the pages and trying to get an understanding of maybe there's certain antiques that are popping up that maybe are still in shop, maybe have some reason, some sort of thing that looks out of sorts, because he's been taught how to write the ledger, so he's going to look for something that seems out of place with this ledger.
Okay, so let's ask the question, guys. What type of items are we expecting to see in this ledger? I can think of things like unique items that are related to, say, the ghost banes or the demon banes that are kind of ringing around. Items like that, except that they're stronger. Maybe there are other elements of magical or spectral or even Leviathan magic, or Leviathan historically in nature. So what else do you guys think would actually be in there?
I have a question about that.
Okay.
Leviathan blood is kind of demon blood, right?
Leviathans are giant demons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can that blood also be used as a drug?
I believe there is precedence in the book somewhere for that, but
If you're bold enough.
Well, as Mike was really shooting for in the one shot, he was his character's vice was drug addiction with something called the sauce, and I think we can definitely call it the sauce.
That's true.
And say yes, it is definitely something that would fall into drug addiction.
Something that might be in that ledger. One of the things that might be in that ledger would be, like somebody's alchemical kit to make the sauce, or someone's recipe for it, or some kind of ornate sauce vials that were crafted, that were sold by his family. I mean, that's just one of many, but talk about ride the lightning.
So the whole book predates the Cataclysm, so over 1,000 years old. These newer entries.
Oh, that would be newer, yeah.
These newer entries. How old are the newer entries?
So the notes, are you talking about the notes that are in purple?
The notes that are in purple and the notes that are in the red.
Okay, so the notes that are in red,
Read it.
They're written in ghosts. They're written in spectral form, so they have to be post-Cataclysm.
not necessarily.
Okay,
Not
so
necessarily.
were ghosts prevalent pre-Cataclysm?
So, okay, this is one of those places where we can talk a little bit about the history of the world in respect to the. My understanding, based on what I've read and the vision that I have in my head, and this is probably a great opportunity to do a tiny bit of world building. But the idea I have in my head was that this pre-cataclysmic world was a high fantasy world where there were all kinds of magic, right? And the spectral stuff might be, essentially necromancy or some other form of messing with spiritual energy, right? Everything that's going on with the Leviathan blood and all of those aspects would definitely fall under the realm of alchemy, right? So, but those might not be the only elements of magic or of mystical forces or, the natural order of things. These are just things that are prevalent in Duskfall now, post-cataclysm, and the circumstances with which, that are a part of everyday life, essentially.
So then the book contains the locations or supposed locations of known or suspected spirit wells.
So that's one possibility. Absolutely.
Probably that as well. Yeah.
So spirit wells make a lot of sense. And maybe those are directly related to certain types of items or maybe their property entries.
Yeah, because it would be. So the spirit well, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, the spirit well is a rift in the veil of reality where ghosts and other supernatural beings congregate. In ancient myth, it is a spawning fountain for demons. So knowing where one is allows you to basically, you have an oil rig of supernatural power and or demon blood and or demons to bind to your will and all kinds of other crazy shit. So the location of those would be super important to people.
So it's interesting
look,
that
our house is there. That's cool. It's on the list. Nice.
And Lisa just went exactly where I was going to talk about. So I think that the Vale estate is potentially one of those. I'm not sure if we want to explore that or how we want to explore that, but I think that that's one possibility, which would explain why spirits congregate there, why her family congregates there, why all of those elements sort of work in a place where there is this happy sort of, contradiction or, paradox of a lot of really, reconciled spirits or spirits that are non-destructive. That would explain it, because one of the aspects of these spirit wells is that they attract the paranormal, they attract the ghosts, they attract demons, they attract different types of paranormal activity, essentially, for lack of a better description, bringing it all into a place that can be necessarily considered safe for the average individual in Duskfall or, around the Isles, essentially.
And that's probably what populates the park across the street as well. I think I've read.
In fact, that actually might be a better explanation for the park, is the park is the center of it. And the reason that the estate works is that it's close enough to be able to pick up some of that, residual energy that's kind of flowing out from there. But at the same time, it isn't destructive because there's not a lot of spirits specifically congregating and coming from, different directions and, coming back
chaotic.
to. Right, exactly. Right. It's more of a controlled circumstance because it's on the edge. Essentially, you're on the edge of the black hole versus being, the center of the black hole.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else would be useful. It depends. It really depends on how more like on how like what how long this has been written in, like since the Cataclysm, how recent the events are, because there could be like people that like known experimental alchemists or writings of notes that like say, okay, this alchemist there's rumors that this guy has plans to make XYZ, which is a thing that hasn't been heard of before, and there's just loose notes on the guy or the person who made it.
So the ledger. So in my head, the ledger represents something that the book, the binding, the spiritual bounding. All the first entries are pre-cataclysmic. That doesn't necessarily mean that all entries are pre-cataclysmic. So all of the blue entries are basically, an acknowledgement of the history of these items, across that pre-cataclysmic to post-cataclysmic time. The purple entries, and I'm going to throw all this information out there because I think it's incredibly relevant to get us to a score at some point. All of the purple entries are definitely a lot more recent, for something within the last 50 years.
Which means so knowing that would pique Nyx's interest in that this has been out of the hands of the Bowerstone family for X number of years. Someone else knows how to write in it, and someone else is maintaining this, and someone else appears to be carrying on the work of the Bowerstone family, and it's not him.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound about right?
It would. It also seems to be could play into part with Reymond's whole, the conflict within the family, the marrying half off. Maybe something could be there because it was his uncle also that died, but it was his uncle's wife's family that had the whole conspiracy to basically get the wealth and whatnot of the Bowerstone family via that. So they could also play into part of it. But yeah, with this ledger, you're talking probably 6 generations he wouldn't have had it. It's definitely something. It's definitely.
Well, so it's at least the first writings. So Violet would look at the details of the notes in purple, and she would note that they are at least 50 years old, right? So maybe a generation or two. I mean, a generation being 20 years on average. So at least let's say 2 generations it's been out, but it would have been something where your family, your father and mother, and potentially your grandfather, and your grandmother on both sides or whatever, however the family connection works, it would have definitely been something as recent enough for your parents to be intimately aware of it as a, the family issue or the family curse or the family challenge or whatever, however you want to think about it.
Sounds good.
Okay, so, and then to answer Nyx's final, or Mike's final question, which goes back to the red is definitely something pre-cataclysmic.
Oh.
Well, then I definitely need somebody. If I can't read it, I need to find someone who can.
OC would suggest that you speak to someone on the other side. Maybe someone who would know someone who would know someone, and they could find someone and bring them there, and they could translate it for you.
Yes, what she said. There's something to bring the someone.
All right. Definitely. So that's going to be an older relative in the house might know.
Sure.
Right.
Well, so I mean, when you did this, and you went into the ghost field, you had all of these, essentially these family members that are around you. And you as we acknowledged, Aunt Mabel is there, who is, was an entertainer at one point, or she loved the piano, but was probably, in the family business of being a whisperer as well.
Yeah, all the women.
Right, exactly. At least all attuned to the ghost field in some way, shape, or form, whether they chose it or they tried to run away from it, or however, and I imagine that each of those women, if they didn't pass over and were, their bodies weren't taken to the crematorium where they dispose of the bodies and they perform a ritual to prevent spirits from rising. I would imagine that it's part of your family history that you would, at least for the women and potentially for some of the men, try to prevent the destruction of the spirits so that those family members could stick around. So you've got a whole host of spirit, essentially spirit guides or spirit, people that could, essentially you could engage with. So you can as a part of that whole thing, maybe it's Aunt Mabel or maybe it's somebody else that kind of steps up and says, hey, you should do this.
All right, Aunt Mabel, then can you read it? I'm gonna take a look.
Okay.
Let Aunt Mabel try to
So,
make a look for it.
Does everybody think this is a roll?
No, because she's already attuned to the book.
She also only talks to them. So her networking of day-to-day speaking to these people probably isn't that, challenging.
Okay.
Finding people.
Okay, I'll go with that. So you're engaging with Aunt Mabel then?
Aye.
I would say, let's see, how do I want to frame this? Is the book still on the essentially the table?
Yeah.
So you're in the ghost field and you're kind of flipping through the pages, and you're turning them in a way, and as you're turning them, there's a flourish that, while in the ghost field, you see the residual energy, that is infused with them, for each page, and the outline, there's a slight shimmer and sort of like a trail as the pages turn, and along with the coloring from the lettering, right? The pages are very much a white, sort of an ephemeral kind of a look, but the blue and the purple kind of shimmer through. And, Aunt Mabel's kind of looking over your shoulder and going, I know what that is, and just kind of acknowledging and, we should have a conversation about that. Your Aunt Lola, want to talk about that at one point, and just kind of flipping through. And as you get to the last page, she looks at it and she does exactly what Mike described that the ghost would do in a state where, she just takes a look at it and her eyes grow wide and she grows silent and she moves way far back, from the book. And she says, that's demon blood. That's the language of the demons. You need to find a demonologist. I can't read that.
Okay.
And she just disappears after that. She just sort of fades, and ghosts will do the fading thing when they want to disengage from the world, and their connection with the, they're still there, but they're saying, I'm done. I need some space, and she just kind of fades back.
But Aunt Mabel, what did it say? Damn it! I hate when she does that.
I think
Apologies.
we can all agree. We all want to do that.
Well, the good news and bad news. Good news is Aunt Lola and Mabel know where a lot of these things are. Bad news is, last page, bit of a thing. There's a page written in demon blood. Aunt Lola says we need a demonologist to read it.
OC would be eyeing Nyx and eventually
Do you have any
saying,
friends?
Any friends?
How common would a demonologist be? Or actually, first question is how common is the layperson to being able to acquire demon's blood? I know it's a fuel source, but
So refined ectoplasm
Yep.
would be the kind of thing that would cost a penny. I mean, it would cost some coin specifically to to acquire. And actually, this is a great opportunity for me to talk about abstraction real quick. So a lot of things in Blades and Duskfall in general are labeled into or brought into abstraction rather than talking about the minute details. And so the currency is called coin. And if you've seen John Wick or any of the you understand the context there. A coin has a particular value; it gets you a particular service. So, Demon's Blood refined would be something that you would pay to acquire if you could afford to. It wouldn't be something that your average worker, your average lower class individual would be able to afford. So it would definitely require some resource.
What about unrefined?
Ooh.
I'm assuming you're not writing with refined blood. I'm assuming you're like opening a vein and using that, which I assume would be even harder to acquire.
So in my head, Leviathan blood or demon blood in general. So it wouldn't be clear if you what type of demon blood this is, right? There are a number of options that this could be. Leviathan blood would be acquired in a couple of different ways, right? You would have to be a Leviathan hunter who was active on a ship. You would have to work at a Leviathan refinery or an ectoplasm refinery where they process the raw Leviathan blood and bring it into a usable form by the generators and as a fuel source for the various elements that is representative of the technology that is. I mean, just think about it as the refined version would be used as like a coal or a kerosene kind of a source, or even gasoline at this point. But so you would have to work in those two basic locations in order for that to happen. Now, if we're talking about the fact that there is also the new drug trade, and I love the idea, as you pointed out to me privately, Mike, what Speedy said in chat, which is lure.
That was,
and I think
that was Ninja.
Was that Ninja?
Yeah.
Oh, was that? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to give. I'm not taking away from credit. So lure is where it is. Okay. So it's all about Miss OC herself. So with that in mind, there would definitely be other nefarious sources to kind of go on the backside to various factions or organizations or gangs that would be able to provide that in some way, and that would be unrefined because it could then be refined into say some other aspect of spectral or demonology, or it could be refined into the lure drug that we're going to be working with in this game. So
question about that.
Yep.
That's all good. That's cool. It's really cool to know. And since we are dealing with that, and there are apparently demonologists in the world, does that mean that they would need demonologists in order to A, process the blood, handle the blood safely, make drugs from the blood, and deal in a demon blood black market?
Yes, it would be a combination of like metaphysical understanding of the magical or perceived magical aspects of it, along with the scientific refinement that falls into that whole circumstance.
OC.
So,
do you hide your disfigurement? You're from Tycheros, right?
Yes, she's not. She's from Tycheros, but her whole family is not. So she looks
normal.
For the most part, normal. Yes.
Okay, so it wouldn't be obvious that you're from Tycheros, except that you have like a sweet tan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then I was gonna say he'd look at you if you look different, but you don't look all demony. So, yeah. Would Nyx know how common a demonologist would be? I assume not very.
So,
but would Reymond, who's dealing...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Or would Reymond, because his family dealing with other noble families and high-end things, those high-end noble families all pretty much, besides antiques, deal in Leviathan, power supply.
Right. So the main source of income for the noble families, because they've been around so long, and that's how they have established themselves as the noble families, at least from the reading that I've done and where it's kind of peeking in my head, is the whole idea that Leviathan hunting is a monopoly controlled by the noble families for the most part. And in fact, Reymond probably has some level of investment as a part of that, or at least he has some business relations that are directly connected to it. That being said, because he is not directly his direct source of revenue is Leviathan hunting. There would need to be some real interesting interaction or roles or what's going on there. To go to what Nix is asking, in respect to how common would a demonologist be? They would not be very common outside of the structure of some of the organizations that operate inside of Duskfall. And with that, context in mind, I will delve into very quickly the faction system and how that plays into the game, and I will talk about the very specific factions and that might actually have demonologists. So when you look at the context of the game, and this is kind of meta, or it's stepping out of the individual. So the crew that is represented here, the four of you, represent a organizational unit that can gain and lose reputation. You can gain and lose property and various other types of resources. And you fit into the larger context of a series of power elements that are kind of moving and kind of controlling what's going on in the city and essentially the greater, empire that is, that the world of Blades is. With all of that in mind, there are various what are called factions that represent different interests and efforts going on in that. Your crew represents one faction in that world. The crew that we'll be playing tomorrow night over on Speedy's channel, they represent a different faction in that larger setting of these various organizations. And as an example, some of the things that we've talked about in game so far, the Bluecoats. The Bluecoats represent a faction. The Imperial military, which is the physical arm of the Empire, is this faction. Various other criminal organizations represent factions in the game. In this particular case, the demonologists, you would know, which is kind of common knowledge, that most demonologists are, from a particular Sorry, January. So you would know that the particular demonologists' area of study, where they're actually, where they're schooled, is something called the Moreland Hall of Unnatural Philosophy. Now, if you guys look in the book, there's a bit of information about this. But the Moreland Hall of Unnatural Philosophy is actually a part of what's called the Charter Hall University. And the Charter Hall University is a place where organizations, guilds that are looking for skilled labor will often send their new recruits, their new guild members or whatever, and just pay to have them go and do that. And then it would essentially be like, because we paid for your education, you're now going to be a part of the indentured servitude of doing that, or you're going to pay us a debt for however long that actually happens. And I'll read you very specifically the description that's given in the book. Nexus of secret societies spawning from the Path of Echoes, the Forgotten Gods, and the Ecstasy of the Flesh, each of which vie for primacy within the halls of academia, as well carry on their cult activities in secret. Classes include spectral philosophy, introduction to modern metaphysics, and ethics in demonology. This is the school that would provide the world with quote unquote demonologists. And the Path of Echoes, they're the Forgotten Gods, and the Ecstasy of the Flesh, which is actually called the Church of the Ecstasy of the Flesh, are actual factions, and they have various interests and effects in the world. So those would be your sources of information. And sorry for monologuing, but that actually required a little bit of detail there. So
That's okay. I just tuned you out entirely and just didn't listen to anything you said.
that sounds completely like Nick's.
Yeah.
Good thing there's VODs.
Yeah. That's not true. I listened to all of it. So, man. Yeah, I guess he kind of looks around to everybody and he says, well, it appears as though we are going back to school.
Are you saying that we need to acquire a nerd?
You can hear Nye giggle in the background, taking that completely inappropriately and out of context. And I just look at her like with a sharp look, and she just stops laughing.
Yeah, he says a demonologist is outside of my wheelhouse. I don't have any of those in my friend network. I could perhaps reach out to the Bluecoats and see if they might have any on staff, but that might be risky into itself. Perhaps where is your lanky friend? Perhaps your friend might know one. If not, it appears as though we're going back to school.
OC will butt in and ask that we not involve the Bluecoats.
Oh, well, the ones that I'm friends with aren't the ones that... no, they probably are the ones that arrest you. But they don't arrest me on a typical occasion.
I'm in agreement with the lady. I think involving the Bluecoats might be a second choice.
Or not a choice at all.
Or not a choice at all. I do think that maybe we need to take a trip to the Vale and maybe see what information we can drum up from some of the regulars there.
I agree. And I can finish my risotto.
Excellent.
OC will mention that you do have a lovely nightclub. I've never been there myself, but my girls tell me it's beautiful.
Well, maybe we can do some cross business.
Vale, just one thing.
Aye.
You know your vampiric friend?
Yes.
I saw something for him that was in the ledger. He needs to get himself some fucking manners.
Well, I do know exactly what you mean. I'll let you tell him that yourself. I'm sure that would be entertaining for all of us.
I will. He's an absolute cock. Now let's go. You should
Let's go.
have seen him flying by like he's some sort of almighty.
He does that. It's quite annoying sometimes. Quite annoying.
How do you live with him?
Oh, well, that's a long story.
Do you nail the coffin shut? I would do that.
Only on holidays.
Well, ladies,
Let's go.
coat rack, shall we leave?
And Nyx hands you a coat. It is a leather long coat. And then he swooshes out of the room, and by the time you realize that you were handed Nyx's coat, and Nyx is now wearing your nice coat with the gold thread, he is already up the stairs.
Bastard.
His other middle name, yes.
I'm
Did
going
you think-
to run him down with my carriage and then reverse, somehow with horses.
I'm gonna canter backwards.
Okay,
Whoa.
so we're about 15 minutes out, and there's been a lot of awesome, storytelling and building of story here. But I had a question for you guys. What's your intent when going to the Vale?
Finish my risotto. I think it was plainly obvious.
I don't care about your risotto.
No, it was for information.
Find a
So we don't
demonologist who can look at this discreetly.
Well, so I'm wondering if there's a score in here in finding a demonologist, or if this is more free play information gathering. Because one of the things that I would love to leave you guys on is, at the start of a score, at the end of this. That way, when we jump into this next week, we get immediately into the action. And I'm wondering, I'm kind of curious what I can do to help get you there to that situation, or if the information gathering will present that situation as well. And I'm curious if how we can kind of weave in that direction.
I think once we find the demonologist and he gives us, basically he can decipher into us,
gleam
then it's
Okay.
going to give us the answers that we need. And thusly the adventure will begin.
Would OC know anyone based on being able to hear, conversations that you wouldn't normally have in plain day? Would
Well,
she
so-
know of knowing different types of people? Would she know one?
Where would OC? What is OC's typical clientele?
Anyone. So she has women who work for her, with nobles, with politicians, which is how she found out the information of how to get in last time. And then she works with people who are like, work in stores, work in shops, like whatever people can afford. But there's different, I guess it's a variety of women to suit the needs.
Okay. I would suspect that, given that description, you would definitely know either a professor or an instructor who takes the occasional night of pleasure away from his wife or his husband, or however you want to think about it, from Moreland Hall. So you would definitely have some connection of that. I also think that you would probably know some of the more well-off students potentially, or have a connection into one of those students. I also think that Nix probably would know somebody at that particular institution, just because he's being playing the spider. And then there's also, I'm almost can guarantee you that Violet probably has some connection as well, at least in my head, because of her business and the nature of this particular discipline of school at this particular university.
Sure, especially if things that she's dealt with and looked into were like, whoa, that is a bad armoire. That has some major demons in it. We need Stefan to come and do his mojo.
Right, exactly.
Probably.
So I think that there's, I'm happy to send you guys, I'm happy for you guys to visit the Vale. I want to give you, as many options as possible, so that, you dig into this and we can go, hey, that works perfectly.
So I think the current score is find a demonologist and decrypt the red pages. Or at least, or at least force a demonologist to decrypt the red pages.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I got it. Okay, yeah.
So the score would be the knowledge that's within the red pages. However we accomplish getting that deciphered so that we know what the red pages say, that's what we want. That's our end goal.
Like a preliminary score, because ultimately we want to get the items on this list.
So each of those, that's a really good point. Each of those items could be an actual score in and of itself, or it can relate to other things that develop into scores.
But until we know what it says, we can't do any of that.
Well, until you know what the
score. We gotta get to second base here with the red page.
You are absolutely right. Okay, so I'm gonna step back from what I just said, and I'm gonna cut to the Vale, because I think there's an opportunity to get exactly to what Mike was just saying in respect to the getting to the knowledge, but not doing it in a way that doing it in a way that it presents itself as a score. So, who is the most experienced, or who is the most knowledgeable of you at the Vale? Who is the person who enjoys the most of the clientele, or of the servicers of the Vale? And I know that OC doesn't frequent it herself personally, so I imagine it's one of the other three of you.
It's not Nix. Nix is
Well,
rarely.
it's full of her girls. She's never been there, but it's full of
Her girls. And then there's Reymond who loves it there, and me who loves it there. But Reymond might win out in that arm wrestling match there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I don't mind it being like a frequent place that he goes to decompress.
Yeah, I'm there a lot.
What's Reymond's vice?
Luxury.
Okay, so the Vale could definitely be considered luxury in respect to, or extravagance in respect
Do
to
you
its
think
service.
he would eat at Vale's home? I think so.
All right, so let's say in your conversation and in your the context of your time, your experience at the Vale, you find yourself talking to various patrons, which happen to include students from Charter Hall University. And so there's one particular individual, we'll call him Trevor, who is a graduating student very soon of not Moreland Hall, but actually is working for the essentially what is considered the waterworks of the university, called Jalen Hall of Alchemy. And Trevor is just about kind of finishing his his time at the university, and so he's just doing those extracurricular classes, and this from his time there, that he's about to quote unquote graduate, and so he's having to take things that he would not necessarily apply directly to his skill or trade, which would be things like introduction to demonology.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so how do you approach Trevor? How do you engage this? What steps do you take?
Right, first of all, is Nix by me?
Nix is not. He might not even be in the Vale.
Okay, because I'm going to take his old coat and just dump it in the streets. Filth. Absolute filth.
It's actually you notice that it's actually a very nice coat.
If he drops it, I'm just going to pick it up and tuck it.
No, don't touch that. That probably has disease in it.
Nice.
Mayhap not, but I know it's got secrets in it, so that's just safekeeping.
It's pretty worthless to me.
Full of lies. Yeah, you would know by throwing it on the ground that it is a fine coat from Dunridge and Sons, one of the best tailors in the city.
Reymond doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
Is that coat big enough for your ego though?
It is. That's his vice, is luxury.
Okay.
And he wears
Just checking.
extravagant leather clothes.
I just don't want it to be too tight. That's all.
Yeah. No, he's got plenty of room
Okay.
for his enormous bulge of ego.
Just ego.
So no, he's not with you.
All right, moving in before we, start measuring egos.
Ouch.
So yeah, he's going to go in there and calm down, OC. It's okay.
Oh. Fuck.
So he's going to enter the Vale, and he's going to look around, especially for Trevor, if he is about there.
Trevor has a lady on his lap who he appears to be sort of interested in, but he's also having a heated conversation with another person at the table.
Okay, so Raymond's going to approach, but he's not going to be so extravagant this time. He's going to slyly just make his way in there with his hands in his pockets, and he's just going to wait. He's going to be listening in key points from this argument, basically to find out what's the deal.
So they are currently arguing over actually something of quite interest to you right now. The legitimate aspects of demonology and how they apply to a life of service in essentially the waterworks, because the school that he's studying with, the organizational structure of the school that he's studying with, specifically the discipline, all relates to things like water filtration and how refinement actually happens for things like Leviathan blood and that kind of a thing. So it's clear that they are talking about very specific things that directly relate to the refining and processing of demon blood, the refining and processing of the water, so that the black water that is typically found in the canals does not have all of the spectral energy that so that it's actually relatively clean, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. He's going to be listening to this and be like, yeah, oof, demonology, oof, waterworks, yeah. Oof, what a day. Trevor, how have you been?
Oh, all right. Just enjoying a drink and a poke before moving on.
Quite. Do you mind if I can borrow you for just a second, mate?
Sure. And he pats the woman on his lap off, and he says, "I'll be back later." And he motions to the student that he was working with, and kind of, pulls off to the side and says, "I haven't talked to you in a week. Usually you're in here drinking by this time. What can I do for you?"
Yeah, been a bit busy lately doing extracurricular activities. Spelunking. Listen,
wait, I gotta ask, does that require a special suit?
yes.
God fucking damn it.
It's a bench.
Oh!
Oh, and it's Go There Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. This ain't the worst of it. Anyways, go on. So
Anyway.
he says spelunking. I didn't realize that there were any caves to go spelunking around here. You'll have to show them to me. Actually, I'm hoping that once, I actually get out of school, I'll actually have time for extracurricular activities.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure in this economy you'll get a great job. But anyway, why I'm here. You're one of those, as you said, demonologist people, yeah? You like to read with words?
I don't particularly subscribe to demonology. It's not my thing. It's not even my discipline. It's not even the school that I'm studying with. But I'm required to take it. So, and he's drinking. He's been drinking, so it's clear that he's a little bit, inebriated, and he's inebriated enough that you're able to get what information that you need from him. Right.
Now, is Vale and OC with me? Do they come in with me, or?
I'm with you, and I'm going to give the woman on his lap a little hug and a kiss on her cheek, and Celeste, we'll make sure you get paid for your time, and join them in that little corner.
Yeah, OC definitely would have walked in. She would have. She's wearing probably like a longer, nicer dress. She probably would have unclipped, and it would have been like what you would wear in a nightclub type thing for the both of us, and wave to a few people or say hi to a few of the girls that we know.
I was going to ask.
And look around because she's never seen it.
Lady Vale, if I could please have the book. He takes it off there and undoes it, and he flicks through the pages and then gets to the read section.
Last one there, right there.
This is the one?
That's the one.
So,
read, please.
Bet you can't.
Trevor.
Bet you 5. Bet you 5 you can't.
How about a 10?
10.
So Trevor looks at you, looks down, looks at you, looks down, looks at you, looks at each of you that are standing there, looks down. Well, that's a blank page. Why? There's nothing I can't read. That's a blank page.
Oops.
Did
you happen to get your eyes tested before you went to the academy?
He stammers and he's like, "Am I supposed? What are you expecting me to see there? All I see is a blank page." And
can I assist him? Can I put my hand on him and demonology 101? Just relax. Let it flow. Tell me what you see.
What are you trying to do there specifically? Is it?
Can I just give him like a little bump of spiritual sight? Can I do that? Because if he's studying demonology, he has to be able to access that veil a little bit, right? No.
Well, it's not his discipline, so I don't assume that that's the case. If you want, and I think if the table wants to allow, you can attune and then bring him into the ghost field for just a second so that he can kind of see that.
Or
that's what I want to do.
OC will be like, or you could go in there with a piece of paper
And
trace it out, and then we don't even have to show him the book.
And you have a crit.
And you have a crit, so that you can automatically succeed in whatever you decide to do.
I'm going to do it. All right. I'm going to go in and absolutely trace it quickly. Just trace what I've got and trace that page a little bit, and then show him what it is, so that I can burn the paper when we're done.
Okay, so you beg his indulgence, and you begin to do your attunement thing, where you gradually kind of phase in, and you've got this piece of paper, and your hand almost moving, spiritually guided, like, as it kind of scribbles across the paper. And as you begin to kind of scribble, and you're getting about halfway through the thing, he immediately reaches out and crumples it up and throws it into the fire. He says, "What the hell are you doing?" And he looks over at Reymond and he says, "Why did you bring me this purveyor of demon knowledge? Don't you know that this is protected?"
Well, I don't know what it says. We wanted you to read it. Please, it's only this page in the book, and we were worried, and I didn't want to leave it anywhere dangerous.
And he shakes his head, and he just...
What does it say?
He's panicking. I say, I can't read it, but those symbols are warnings. You need to speak to...
Warnings of possession, warnings of traps, warnings of...
And he doesn't know. He starts stammering. He starts, he stops, he stammers, he starts, he stops. He says, "You need to speak to Professor Valen. Professor Valen.
Okay.
He'll be the person to know."
All right.
But...
All right.
And this is the concern. Professor Valen has been missing for 2 weeks. We don't know where he is.
Well, that's a fine thing.
He went missing, you say?
Missing from the academy?
We don't know. He's not been in class for 2 weeks.
Reymond looks over at OC. He wouldn't have, made a long-term investment with one of yours. No, OC.
I think it was, he was asking one of you.
Sorry, what was he asking me? Was he made a long-term investment, like what?
With one of your girls.
Oh, like left with her.
Yeah.
I don't know of anyone missing from work, but I can definitely look. And she'll just look over to Nye, like who's listening, and Nye will leave.
Okay. So at him telling you that, he's like, I just came here for a drink and he just walks off.
How rude. He can have some of what the vampire's having.
And so your quarters... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I take £5 from my pouch and motion Celeste back over and say, please? He won the wager. Just go bring him that and tell him my thanks.
He won.
So absolutely, you pay her off, and she goes off, and she, gives him the attention that he needs as he's getting more and more drunk. But as you're waiting for Narix to come back and talk to OC, you watch that he is more and more visibly agitated and more frustrated until she takes him, into the other room, into someplace else.
Good.
When she comes back, she tells OC that nobody is actually missing at this point. But in listening into that conversation, she says it's not surprising. She tells you that it's not surprising that he might be missing. There has been a lot of nefarious activity around purveyors of demon knowledge at this point, or demonology at this point. Anybody who has any type of real knowledge of demonology.
So OC will convey this message and say, in dealing with these people in the past, they are a little bit rougher with the girls. and seem a little bit more troubled the more they drink, more than the usual, clients. We just need to take caution if we're going to be going around asking these people, and maybe not in public, and not with the book.
Well noted. If you don't mind, I'd like to retrace this and put this book somewhere safe.
Oh, let me take care of it. I'll put it away in my stash.
Did you say retrace it?
He crumpled it and threw it into the fire.
Not the book. She wants to retrace it from the book.
No, I understand. I wanted to understand that's what she's asking to do, is to basically retrace the designs and then.
I would wait until we need it and retrace it. Because if you lose it, if we, just, you never know.
Good thinking. Good thinking. Right you are. Good.
She's also gonna pull up her dress a little bit, where she has a knife, a flask, and a few other objects. And there's a little vial, and just say, next time if you're gonna ask someone, let me know. She has trance powder. If the person's gonna become, agitated in public and cause a scene and maybe get us in trouble.
What's a lovely trick. Good to know. Thank you. Do you have somewhere safe, Reymond, to keep this really safe?
I do. I have the bower. I have a desk.
I have a desk.
I'm going to take it that desk is a euphemism for something else, much safer than a desk.
It's a massive walk-in desk.
Fantastic. I love those.
That you go spelunking in occasionally?
Yes.
That's maybe under your house?
I imagine that Reymond, where he keeps his, his outfit and whatnot, is in like a sewer system.
Oh my
So
god.
So you're like a shitty Batman?
Yes.
Oh.
There's a desk, and then there's another desk in the corner, but no one knows which one the book is in.
Why do you have a grandfather
Just
clock
kidding,
in
it's this
every
desk.
room?
There's only one drawer.
So you guys now have something standing in front of you, or you now have a situation standing in front of you, the disappearance of Professor Valen. You know that Professor Valen works specifically in the field that you guys are looking to find more information about, that he is employed through Moreland Hall, but that his whereabouts are unknown based on what Trevor just told you. So it sounds to me, and let me make sure I understand that, or let's see where you guys are thinking about this, but this sounds like your first score.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this sounds like your first opportunity to get involved and stir some shit up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is actually a really good point where we'll stop, and call it session, and then pick up at the beginning of the planning for that score next week.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck taking
All
that
right.
eyeliner off, buddy.
Comes right off.
I have makeup, remember, do you?
Yeah.
Mike's a pro. What are you talking about?
He said that so confidently, like,
Yeah.
Yeah. We think it's
All
his
right,
day
well-
one.
Mike, I'm calling it good.
Yeah.
You guys are calling it good.
Perfect.
And I'm going to hand it over to you.
Cool. So, guys, this was episode 1 of 6 and 20, the Blades in the Dark campaign run by the fabulous Video Store Cowboy. As I said, this is a cooperative stream between myself and Not So Speedruns. You guys can see him in chat. I will give him a shout out momentarily. The other half of this campaign is going to be run on Not So Speedruns channel, I believe at the same time, 8 to 11 p.m. on Thursday nights. Obviously, we will go over there and throw him a host tomorrow after our show. As always, you guys can find us here every Tuesday, every Thursday from 7 to 10 p.m., and now every Wednesday from 8 to 11 p.m. Here running some Blades in the Dark. which is going to be super rad. We had a great cast today. We got some great introductions to the system. I know a lot of people are new to that. I know a lot of people have chatted new to the game. I had a fantastic time. I know we had 1-7 Design in the audience here. That is John Harper, who is the guy who made the game. He stuck around for over half the game, which is super rad of him to do, assisting us with his knowledge and all kinds of cool shit. Yeah, so let's go around and reintroduce our cast and crew, get your guys' thoughts on what the hell happened here. So we'll start with the man of many words, Crit Gaming, a.k.a. Slade. Who are you? What are you doing here? And what did you think about tonight?
I have to say, this is probably one of the best systems I've played as far as an actual core mechanic goes. Just the role-play value and the narrative storytelling with this is really well done. You know what? It's definitely one that I will be implementing if I can get my Kiwi fellas over here to get their A into G to come and play. But yeah, I honestly had a really, really fun time. It was good.
Fantastic. And a woman of many accents. We'll go over to Lisa. Who are you? What are you doing here? And what did you think of tonight?
Oh, this was so much fun. I'm Lisa Lee, and I'm Danger Lily on Twitch, and I'm Lisa Bell on Twitter, and I love this. I love this. The way this world is set up. This is role-playing heaven. This is so cool. And like I said, just the Roll20 character sheets and how that's built and how that interacts is so freaking aces. It's so good. And I love this. This is so much. I mean, I've been looking forward to this for 2 weeks now, and this has completely surpassed expectations because I had no idea what this was going to be or be like, and I haven't gamed with any of you guys before, so this was just freaking phenomenal. Loved it.
Fantastic.
Can't wait for more.
Sorry, I said that wrong. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
And we'll go over to Miss Ginger Ninja herself, the Orange Crush. Who are you? What are you doing here? And what did you think of tonight?
OC's back. I do a lot of first-person shooters and a lot of role-playing games and horror games and things like that on my channel. I'm also here, we weren't here last night, but here for the Tuesday games as well on UnMadeGaming. But I loved it. I loved the one-shot, and I really wanted more, and this is just as much fun as I remember it being. D&D is a lot of fun. I love this because it's a little bit more wiggle room with role-playing, with storytelling, with, you know, actions, things like that. So I love it.
Yeah, I've been a fan of the Powered by Apocalypse systems for a while. I played Apocalypse World, which was a super fun Fallout-style game. That's what all these games are based on. They're based on the Apocalypse rules. We did a 4-session run-through of City of Mist over on Johnny's channel, which is a Powered by Apocalypse game based on that same rule set, which was awesome fun. This game, we've done a few one-shots with that. It's also an awesome game, and I think Dungeon World is the last big one of those, which has its merits. For fantasy for fantasy style games, you really can't go wrong with like something like D&D. I don't think there was enough crunch for what Dungeon World was. But I had a blast with all these games. I had a blast with Johnny DMing. I had a blast playing City of Mist, and I'm excited to see how we interact between the two campaigns running simultaneously. So the man himself, Johnny VideoStoreCowboy, who are you? What are you doing here? And what did you think of tonight?
All right, so before I get into my little plug, I got to say, I'm very curious because, so Nyx and Sky are both spiders. Nyx is on this crew. Sky is Speedy on the other crew. And you both have talked, privately about doing dead drops and sharing information of some kind. So I'm very curious to see when you guys want to do that and what mechanic actually, you guys want to do. I'm also very curious because Violet and Trelane's character also are connected in some way, shape, or form because those two have been plotting. So I'm other than the faction system and you guys playing, I'm very curious to see those relationships build across stream and at some point see how they affect everybody's game. So I'm excited because we've done our best to keep you in the loop on everything, and I think I'm just going to slide him into Speedy's DMs and not keep you in the loop. I think that's perfect, actually, because I love the idea of interactions that I have no context in and I have to react to, because that's one of the best parts about, and we've talked about this privately, is I love the improv, the dynamic nature of this and trying to figure out where the story's going to go.
Yeah. I'm excited about it.
So I am Johnny. I run the Video Store Cowboy channel. I've had Mike over there on the past. We were playing City of Mist. I've run Star Wars games in the past. I've done other things on there. Everything is kind of up in hiatus kind of up in the air right now. I've got some new things that are moving, but I'm not really running anything because I'm incredibly focused on this. And the other thing that I'll be doing, which is tomorrow night, which is running 6 and 20 Blades in the Dark over on Speedy's channel, which will be at the same time, different bat channel though. But again, I am looking forward to doing the same thing over there, starting the introduction and finding out where these characters go. I'm very curious to see if the progression is the same way, and how differently you guys kind of just start the game versus becoming experienced and kind of getting into it. So, there's information on out there on chats about that, and I'll be posting, I'm sure, at some point on Twitter about that. But I can't thank you guys enough coming together, not only as a cast, and thank you, Ms. Jinja, for showing up at the last minute. That's really awesome of you to just kind of step back into the fold. Really appreciate that. And then thank you again, Mike, and thank you, Speedy, for allowing me to do this crazy madness.
Of course. So to close out the night, guys, we're going to go raid a friend of the channel, a buddy of ours, and someone who has almost as cool hair as Speedy, Bubbernot himself. He is currently playing some D&D, the Shackled City. So guys, head over to Bub's channel, copy and paste that sweet raid alarm. Whoever just hosted us, thank you. Exploding Dice with 32 minions, you came in just at the end. Oh my god. Guys, if you are here currently and you don't know Exploding Dice, that is a good friend of the channel. Definitely go check him out. He does a lot of Cthulhu games, he does a lot of D&D, he has a couple of drop-in, drop-out games, he's running some one-shots over here, and unfortunately, he came in just as we are about to leave. So I love your faces, guys. If you guys want to see more D&D content, you can find us here every Tuesday and Thursday, 7 to 10 p.m., Wednesdays now, 8 to 11 p.m., and coming soon, in maybe 12 or so weeks, Mondays. Hot, sexy sloozies. So we're going to pass on this awesome raid from us to Bubbernot. We'll go over there, give him a massive shout-out, shower him in your hot, sticky love. And from all of us to you guys, bye-bye.